Chapter 727. The Arrival of the Swordmaster. To Qin Shujian, this was both a surprise and a reasonable thing to do. In every era, there were Dao Fruit Realm powerhouses born. At the end of an era, the universe collapsed. All living beings would die. But Dao Fruit Realm powerhouses had the means to stay, or be reborn in the next era, or simply pass through an era safely. So, after a few eras, Qin Shujian wasn't sure how many cultivators had stayed behind. He only knew some of the powerhouses that he was familiar with had survived from the previous eras. Apart from that, Qin Shujian did not have much information. He thought that the Swordmaster had died in battle back then and did not expect him to return so soon. No matter what, the return of the Swordmaster was a good thing for the Heavenly Court. After all, the other party's strength was really strong. Even if he had just broken through to true immortal, it was the same. As a Dao Fruit Realm powerhouse, his true strength could not be measured by his realm. In the inner hall of the Heavenly Palace, Qin Shujian sat on the main seat and was deep in thought. The 4 major continents attracted 4 player worlds to descend. Now that the Swordmaster has returned, I don't know who is in the other 3 player worlds. Maybe I can get some information from the players, but it may not be accurate. Qin Shujian shook his head. Just like the Swordmaster, when others entered the player world, they must have used concealment means. It was impossible for them to publicly show their true faces. In other words, the other party must have used another identity in the player world to cover up. In addition to the existence of the deceiving order, only then could they deceive the heavenly axiom of the player world. In this case, I can only wait for the future. Qin Shujian did not think much about this matter. Anyway, the existence of the deceiving order. It could not be concealed for long. When the deceiving order was broken, they would naturally return. Right now, Qin Shujian's attention was mostly focused on Demon Yuan. According to his guess, the Demon Abyss should be a backup left by the powerhouses of the previous era. Of course, it could not be ruled out that it was a powerhouse of this era. But no matter what, the Demon Abyss and Dao Fruit Realm powerhouses were definitely related. So, no matter what, both sides would have to fight sooner or later. We can put aside the matter of the players and the new age for a while. Once those troublemakers are eliminated, we can truly make a move on the players' world. Right now, the most important thing was to get rid of the demonic abyss. In the current era, the universe should not be as vast and boundless as before. Even if they had a backup plan, it was definitely hidden too deeply. The Devil Abyss is one, and so is the Magnificent Cavern. Apart from them, there shouldn't be a third existence. Qin Shujian thought to himself. The Huading Cavern was in the Great Thousand World. However, it was not an easy task to find them. He wasn't sure. What kind of existence was the Huading Cavern? It was a real cave of inheritance. There were still experts from ancient eras waiting for a chance to be reborn. It would be fine if it was the former. If that was the case, then the Cauldron Abode would not be in any danger. However, if it was the latter, then it would be a hidden danger. It's a Dao fruit that I don't know if it's a friend or foe. I have to get rid of it. If it's a friend, it's fine. But if it's an enemy, I have to get rid of it. Qin Shujian's expression was cold. In so many eras, the Dao fruits that were born were not completely united. Some wanted to be content with the status quo. Some wanted to fight for a way to survive. Their ideals were different. There would also be differences, and eventually become enemies. In the sea of consciousness, the God-Slayer did not come back to his senses for a long time. The content of the conversation between Qin Shujian and the Blade Master, and this Zhu Bing, had made him fall into self-doubt. Illusion. Reality. In this regard, the God-Slayer had never thought that the world he lived in was an illusion, and that he was also a product of illusion. Since it was an illusion, naturally, there was no meaning in his existence. Therefore, the God-Slayer was somewhat bewitched. Until now, he barely managed to wake up from his self-doubt and asked with difficulty, "Emperor of Heaven, is the universe really an illusion? If it's an illusion, then aren't we also an illusion?" If that's the case, then what's the meaning of our existence? What do you think is an illusion, and what is reality? Qin Shujian smiled faintly and asked in return. The God-slayer did not immediately answer. Instead, he thought about the other party's question. Then he replied, reality exists, and illusion does not exist. The God-slayer reluctantly gave an answer that could not be considered an answer. Regarding the difference between illusion and reality,
He did not know much about it.
Qin Shujian said, the so-called illusion and reality are only relative. If you think you exist, then you exist. If you think you don't exist, then you don't exist. There is a good saying, I think, therefore I am. There has never been a clear and definite conclusion between illusion and reality. The God-slayer was deep in thought. Qin Shujian continued, there is not much of a boundary between illusion and reality. Whether it is real or not, as long as you can exist, that is enough. But if you can't exist, then you need to fight back. Right now, there is a real power that is eroding the universe we are in. If we don't fight back, then sooner or later, we will be swallowed up by reality. If we want to fight against reality, then we need to have equal power.
To put it bluntly,
no one is fighting for anyone else, and we are not fighting for all living beings in the universe.
we just want to fight for ourselves.
After countless years of bitter cultivation, we reach the peak of the Dao fruit realm, only to discover that we are the same as birds in a cage. We can only silently wait for death to come.
How sad is that?
In the eyes of outsiders, the Dao fruit realm was the end of all cultivation. It was also the realm that one pursued all their lives. But only after truly reaching that realm would one realize how sad that realm was. Sometimes knowing too much might not be a good thing. If one did not break through to the Dao fruit realm with the lifespan of a true immortal, one would not be able to wait until the end of an era. But once one broke through to the Dao fruit realm, only then would one understand what kind of world one was in. Knowing a lot, would there be resistance? As one era after another passed, more and more experts wanted to resist. There were only a few who were truly willing to sit and wait for death, to be able to reach the Dao fruit realm. Most of them had a resolute heart. When Godslayer heard this, he felt relieved. Indeed, there was no boundary between falsehood and reality. One's existence and the ability to think were real. The so-called falsehood was only a relative term. After the knot in his heart was untied, Godslayer quickly asked, "The Emperor of Heaven once said that there is a real power outside the universe that is eroding it. That's why it triggered the end of an era?" "That's right." Qin Shujian nodded. After pondering for a moment, he gave a plausible answer. You can imagine the universe as a circle, and the real power is an even larger circle. When the universe expands and the real power contracts to a certain extent, the two will come into contact. Once the two come into contact, the universe will burst like a bubble. Every time the universe collapses, it will return to its original starting point and then expand outwards bit by bit. But in reality, because of the contraction of the real power, the universe's expansion range is actually smaller and smaller each time. In the end, when the real power completely shrinks to nothing, then no new era will be born. As for Qin Shujian's explanation, the god-slaying saber came to a realization. He didn't know much about the universe and the real power. Now, after the explanation, he truly understood. Afterward, Godslayer silently digested the content. On the other side, Qin Shujian didn't say anything. There was something he didn't say. That was, the smaller the universe, the weaker the power. The end of the previous few eras had already caused the universe's power to be wasted. If there was still no action in this era, then in the next era, even if it could draw the power of the players over, it wouldn't be possible to devour the player's world. Therefore, whether it merged with the player's world or not, the current era was the only chance. This era is already getting stronger. After Qin Shujian became the Emperor of Heaven, he could clearly feel the changes in heaven and earth. Heaven and earth were a part of the universe. The universe was getting stronger. Heaven and earth were naturally getting stronger. Merging with the real world, the The universe was already slowly absorbing the positive real power to strengthen its foundation. This was the universe's counterattack. Regarding the changes in the universe, Qin Shujian believed that the heavenly axiom of the player's world was also very clear. But until now, the heavenly axiom of the player's world was still in the stage of nibbling. It could be seen that the other party didn't care about the universe becoming stronger. After all, no matter how strong the universe was, it couldn't threaten the real world, because there was a fundamental difference in the level of power between the two. The reason why the player's world didn't attack on a large scale was because of the existence of the other player's worlds. Everyone wanted to devour the universe,
But
no one wanted to share it with the heavenly axiom of the other worlds. This was also the reason why the universe would receive 4 players' worlds at the same time. The purpose was to restrain them.
soon,
Qin Shujian summoned the gods for a meeting. In a hall, Xiong woke up from his cultivation. The Emperor of Heaven summons me. Although he had doubts in his heart, he didn't hesitate for too long. 3 years of seclusion. Xiong had never left the main hall. Now that the Emperor of Heaven had summoned the gods for a meeting, he could go out for a walk. He got up from the futon. Xiong didn't touch the seal that attracted the power of the stars. Because only the seal existed. Only then could the power of the stars be drawn down, and then poured the power of the stars into the 4 continents.
it could be said that
The seal of the gods was the most important thing. It was also the symbol of the gods' identity. Walking out of the main hall, Xiong saw the other experts. Brother Yang, long time no see. A hearty voice sounded. The Thousand-Eye Emperor had already flown forward and landed in front of Xiong. Thousand-Eye Emperor. Xiong smiled and nodded. Since the Thousand-Eye Emperor wanted to curry favor, he wouldn't give the other party any face. Now that the heavenly court had sealed the gods, to a certain extent, all the true immortals were colleagues. The Thousand-Eye Emperor said, "The Emperor of Heaven has summoned us for a meeting. Why don't you and I go together?" "Sure, please. Please." Then, the two of them headed towards the heavenly palace. At this moment, in the other halls, there were also experts heading towards the heavenly palace. Qin Shujian's edict caused all the powerhouses to awaken from their seclusion. There were more than 300 halls in the heavenly court. In the astral wind layer of heaven and earth, they occupied an area of 10,000 miles. But for true immortals, 10,000 miles of area was only a matter of time. It was just that there was a formation in the heavenly court. If others wanted to break through the void or travel through the void, it was not an easy task. If they wanted to walk inside, then they could only take 1 step at a time. But even so, for other true immortals, it didn't take much time. In front of the heavenly palace, the Thousand-Eye Emperor and Xiong saw one person and immediately stopped. They cupped their hands and greeted, "War God of the North Pole." "Brother Yang." Thousand-Eye Emperor. The mountain-crushing emperor also cupped his hands slightly at this moment. In the heavenly court, they could use the deity position or their original position. There was no problem.
But
when a lower deity position expert met a higher deity position expert, they would usually use the deity position to show respect. Looking at the mountain-crushing emperor in front of him, the Thousand-Eye Emperor's heart was also extremely complicated. In terms of strength, before he became a god, he was not weaker than the mountain-crushing emperor. However, the other party had obtained the position of the war god of the North Pole, while he could only obtain the position of the Zhou Tian constellation. Moreover, he was not at the top of the constellation, but he was not at the top. Regarding this matter, the Thousand-Eye Emperor was also well aware. When he joined the human clan, he was already at the end of his rope, and it was almost the same as being forced. It was completely different from the mountain-crushing clan's voluntary submission. It was also because of this. Therefore, the mountain-crushing emperor waited for the position of the war god of the North Pole. What was done could not be undone. The Thousand-Eye Emperor also knew that it was useless to regret now. After obtaining the position of the war god of the North Pole, the mountain-crushing emperor's strength had increased by leaps and bounds, and was not something that the current him could compare to. The mountain-crushing emperor looked at the back of the thousand-eye emperor and revealed a faint smile. Although he did not have the ability to read minds, he could still see some obvious things from the other party's expression. Sometimes it's still very important to pick a side. Being too cautious may not be a good thing. The mountain-crushing emperor sighed in his heart. He was also a little regretful now. He regretted that he did not join the human clan from the beginning. Or else, right now, he was not just a war god of the North Pole, but even the imperial emperors of the 5 directions might have a place for him. But it was useless to regret. Right now, being able to use the position of the war god of the North Pole was completely enough for the mountain-crushing emperor. Inside the heavenly palace, the gods had already arrived one after another. After all the gods had arrived, Qin Shujian's figure suddenly appeared on the originally empty main seat. Immediately, everyone bowed down. "Greetings, Emperor of Heaven. Everyone, please rise." "Thank you, Emperor of Heaven." Everyone straightened up. On the main seat, Qin Shujian looked down at the gods below. An invisible pressure had already spread throughout the heavenly palace. Inside the gods, the imperial emperors of the 5 directions stood at the front. Behind them were the war gods of the 4 directions. As for the last one, it was the 365 Zhou Tian constellations. After glancing at everyone, Qin Shujian had a certain understanding of their cultivation. The strongest one. It was still Emperor Zhao. After cultivating in the heavenly court for a few years, he had now become the only expert in the 3rd level of the true immortal realm in the heavenly court, excluding himself. And judging from Emperor Zhao's strength, since he had reached the 3rd level of the true immortal realm, his strength must have already surpassed the limit of the lower 3 levels and reached the middle 3 levels. Exactly how strong he was. Without truly fighting, Qin Shujian did not dare to make wild guesses. Because, in his opinion, if there were no accidents in this era, Emperor Zhao would definitely have a place among the Dao fruit experts who could be born. The probability of him breaking through. Even the demon emperor Si Hanhai and Xiao Qingfeng might be slightly inferior. The latter two. One was the first demon emperor who had been infused with the luck of the demon clan. The other was the reincarnation of an ancient expert who had a deep foundation. In comparison, Emperor Zhao was an outstanding person who had relied on himself to walk step by step until now. Although he had a lot of opportunities, he had relied on himself to obtain them, which was completely different from the others. After glancing at it, Qin Shujian retracted his gaze, then waved his hand and condensed his true essence in the air, forming the phantom of a token. Because the path he had taken was different. His current body was not an immortal body, and his true essence had not transformed into a mortal essence. As for what kind of state it was, Qin Shujian himself did not know. Therefore, when it came to his own strength, he still regarded it as true essence, but it was much stronger than the true essence of other cultivators. The true essence condensed. The phantom of a bronze token appeared directly above the main hall. Everyone's eyes fell on the token at the same time. The bronze token. Most people were very unfamiliar with it, because they had never seen it before. Only Emperor Zhao and the other experts of the human clan had doubts in their eyes. Long before Qin Shujian became the Emperor of Heaven, he had wantonly sent people to search for the bronze token. It was also because of this. Even if Emperor Zhao and the others did not pay much attention to it, it was impossible for them not to have any news at all. Therefore, they were also a little familiar with the bronze token. "May I ask, Emperor of Heaven, what exactly is this token?" A true immortal cupped his hands and asked. "This token has no name, but there is a seal behind it, a seal that imprisons an evil spirit. If this token falls into the hands of others and accidentally opens the seal, it will definitely be a disaster. There are already many external threats in the Great Thousand World, so the sealed evil spirit must not be rescued." Qin Shujian said in a deep voice with a dignified expression. "The various clans of the 4 continents must find the bronze token and hand it to me. For this, anyone who submits the bronze token will be able to obtain the blood essence of a fierce beast from a middle 3 true immortal, as well as a complete corpse of a fierce beast from a lower 3 true immortal." As soon as he finished speaking, apart from Emperor Zhao and Xiao Qingfeng, everyone's expression changed. The blood essence of a fierce beast from a middle 3 true immortal. The corpse of a fierce beast from a lower 3 true immortal. Both of these things could be called supreme treasures. The former could temper the body, and the latter could do the same. However, compared to the blood essence alone, the latter was a complete corpse, so it could have a greater effect. However, no matter which one it was, they were both supreme treasures. Even if a true immortal used them, he could still improve his strength. If it was said that there were originally people who did not care about finding the bronze token after hearing about the reward, their breathing became slightly hurried. After breaking through to the true immortal realm, after transforming the physical body into an immortal body, every bit of improvement in the future would be extremely difficult. The blood essence of a fierce beast. It was one of the few things that could improve one's physique. Although the traditional path of true immortals mainly relied on laws, a strong physical body was also useful. All of a sudden, a true immortal said in a deep voice, "Emperor of Heaven, don't worry, I will definitely find the bronze token. That's for the best." Qin Shujian nodded and then said with an indifferent expression, "I'll say this first. If anyone dares to use the bronze token without permission after obtaining it, it will be equivalent to betraying the heavenly court. As for the consequences, I don't think I need to say more. You can also take a gamble and see if I will detect when you use the bronze token." Hearing that, the gods were silent. Until now, they still couldn't be sure what was behind the bronze token. Was it really sealing the evil demon? Or was there something else? However, no one dared to take a gamble. Qin Shujian's words made them wary. Although there were some who wanted to find out the secret, if they used the bronze token and were detected by the other party, they would be dead. As for hiding, that might not be the case. This was because the stronger one was, the more tricks they had. No one dared to take a gamble on an uncertain probability. Looking at the gods in silence, Qin Shujian said, "In about 30 years, the demonic abyss will merge with the great thousand world. At that time, the demonic abyss tribulation that destroyed the ancient heavenly court will descend again. With the current strength of the heavenly court, it will not be easy to fight against the demonic abyss. However, now that the power of the stars has been drawn down, I see that your strength has improved quickly. In 30 years, you should have the power to fight against the demonic abyss." 30 years later, the demonic abyss will descend. They were clear about the latter. After all, the biggest threat to the great thousand world was the demonic abyss. However, the arrival of the demonic abyss in 30 years was unexpected. This was what they had expected. The arrival of the demonic abyss would take at least 50 years. Now, it was 30 years. To a certain extent, it was equivalent to more than half the time. A difference of half the time. Anything could play an important role, let alone now. The Dog Emperor said in a deep voice, reporting to the Heavenly Emperor, "The void demons are also attacking the heaven and earth barrier day and night. If the demonic abyss tribulation starts, the void demons might hit us when we are down. If we want to deal with the demonic abyss, we must first get rid of the void demons." Emperor Dongyang's words make sense. Immediately, the other true immortals nodded in agreement. As the Emperor of the 5 Directions, the Dog Emperor was not only the Emperor of the 9-headed dog clan, but he also had a high status among the gods of the heavenly court. The Emperor of the 5 Directions. Emperor Zhongyuan was the leader. However, the Eastern Sun Emperor was enough to be ranked second. In other words, the Dog Emperor's status in the heavenly court was second only to the Emperor of Heaven and Emperor Zhongyuan. Therefore, many true immortals wanted to find an opportunity to curry favor with Emperor Dongyang. Emperor Zhao said in a deep voice, "It is inevitable to attack the void demons. However, there are 4 demon emperors in the void demons, all of whom are true immortals of the upper 3 levels. Although our heavenly court is not weak, we do not have true immortals of the upper 3 levels. We are still far from being able to deal with the void demons. Indeed, there is a certain gap between the heavenly court's strength and the void demons." Qin Shujian's expression did not change. he said calmly. However, we do not have much time left. The void demons are also in existence that must be dealt with. Now that the power of the stars has been drawn in, the heavenly court's strength has increased rapidly. I believe that in another 10 or 20 years, even if we don't have the upper 3 layers of true immortals, I believe that the middle 3 layers of true immortals will not be a problem. But, as I said before, there is not much time left for the heavenly court. If we cannot deal with the void demons, the great tribulation of the demonic abyss will descend, and the heavenly court will have no chance of resisting. In other words, if the heavenly court cannot even deal with the void demons, how can we deal with the demonic abyss? Therefore, in 10 or 20 years, the heavenly court will officially open the heavenly barrier and declare war on the void demons. Qin Shujian's expression was indifferent. In 10 or 20 years, he would deal with the void demons. There was no need to wait too long, although the demonic abyss would arrive in about 30 years. However, no one could be sure. Would the demonic abyss arrive earlier? Moreover, if the heavenly court could not deal with the void demons in 20 years, then the heavenly court in 30 years would not be able to deal with the demonic abyss. Since they would have to do it sooner or later, then they might as well do it earlier. More importantly, in Qin Shujian's eyes, 20 years was more than enough. The biggest problem with the demonic abyss was the demon emperors. As long as the demon emperors were dealt with, the other void demons would not be much of a problem. With the heavenly court's current foundation, given a little more time, it should be enough. The gods below, many of them looked at each other and were speechless. They did not refute Qin Shujian's orders, because they could hear the decisiveness in his words. Even if they spoke now, it would be useless. Moreover, if the heavenly court was given another 10 or 20 years, they might have a chance to deal with the void demons. After all, it had only been 3 years since the heavenly court was established. Only 3 years. The heavenly court had more than 300 true immortals. Many of them had even broken through to the second-level immortal realm. Just as Qin Shujian said, as long as they were given a little more time, it would not be a problem to cultivate a group of true immortals of the middle 3 levels. As for the demon emperors, many people turned their gazes to Qin Shujian, who was above them. The strength of the Emperor of Heaven. It had always been a mystery. The other party had the confidence to declare war on the void demons, which meant that he definitely had a lot of confidence. In other words, the strength of the Emperor of Heaven was at least not weaker than an upper 3 levels true immortal. Or maybe it was not as good now. But after 10 or 20 years, that might not be the case. After the meeting ended, the gods retreated from the heavenly court. After returning to their respective palaces, everyone immediately passed on the information regarding the bronze tokens. The blood essence of the middle 3 levels true immortals and the corpses of the lower 3 levels true immortals were rare treasures for them. Of course, they would not let it go. The 9-headed secret realm. The current leader of the 9-headed dog clan was Zhu Chen. Because the dog emperor was the Eastern Sun Emperor, he had already entered the heavenly court to cultivate. As the strongest person under the dog emperor, Zhu Chen naturally took over the duties of the dog emperor temporarily and ruled over the 9-headed dog clan. On a certain level, although Zhu Chen did not have the title of dog emperor, his actions and status were no different from the dog emperor. In the main hall, Zhu Chen sat on the main seat and said loudly, "My emperor sent a message back from the heavenly court, ordering us to find this bronze token without any mistakes." While speaking, he had already condensed the phantom of the bronze token with his true essence. All the elders looked at the bronze token with a puzzled look in their eyes. Kong Yi said, "What is this token? Why does my emperor want to find it?" "The command medallion is not what our emperor needs. It is an order from the celestial emperor. Rumor has it that the command medallion is related to information about an evil demon seal. That is why the celestial emperor ordered all races to search for it. And my emperor sent a message saying that anyone who can find the token will receive a drop of a true immortal's blood essence and enough resources to cultivate to the 10th level of the celestial being realm." Zhu Chen shook his head and added a sentence.
Boom.
His words caused a great commotion in the main hall. All the elders' faces flushed red. Is what the first elder said true? As long as someone finds the bronze token, they can receive a true immortal's blood essence and resources to cultivate to the 10th level of the celestial being realm. They were excited. There was no way they could not be. A true immortal's blood essence. Resources to cultivate to the 10th level of the celestial being realm. Any one of these things was an irresistible temptation to others. The combination of the two. No one had any reason to refuse. Zhu Qin said, "This is what my emperor said, so it naturally can't be false. However, other than my clan, the other clans are also searching for the bronze token. If the token is obtained by other clans, my emperor will probably blame us. Don't worry, First Elder. We will do our best and won't let my emperor down." Kong Yi cupped his hands and said. There was also some excitement on his face. The infusion of star power had allowed Kong Yi to break through from the 9th level of the celestial being realm to the 10th level, but he had not cultivated to perfection yet. If he could get a drop of a true immortal's blood essence. In that case, he was confident that he would be able to reach the Great Circle in a short period of time. At that time, Kong Yi would have the qualifications to break through to the true immortal realm. Therefore, the reward given by the Dog Emperor was an irresistible temptation to him. Go, all of you. Zhu Qian waved his hand and directly had everyone withdraw. When there was no one in the main hall, he prepared to enter cultivation. What reward? For the current Zhu Qian, it was no longer tempting. This was because he had already reached a state of perfection. What he needed to do in the future was to break through to the true immortal realm. Once the 9-headed dog clan gave birth to a second true immortal, their strength would definitely increase greatly. At that time, the 9-headed dog clan was almost equivalent to the strongest clan below the human clan. It's just that it's not that easy to break through to the true immortal realm. Zhu Qin sighed with a complicated expression. There was only one step between the 10th level of the celestial being realm and the true immortal realm. However, it was very difficult to take that step. Sometimes, to take this step, it was important to have a flash of inspiration. Apart from that, the rest was to rely on talent and hard work. Zhu Qin shook his head. If it really doesn't work, then I can only go to the heavenly court and ask my emperor to give me a few pointers. However, I might not be able to break through successfully. The path of a true immortal can only be walked by myself. The current him was also very eager to break through to the true immortal realm. If he did not become an immortal, in the end he was still an ant. Right now, true immortals were the mainstream of the great thousand worlds. No matter how powerful a diviner was, they were only equivalent to the backbone of the forces. There was no way for them to reach the top. Under certain circumstances, the backbone of the forces was more or less the same as the masses of strength.
To put it bluntly,
there was no difference between being cannon fodder. No one wanted to be cannon fodder. Zhu Qin did not want to be either. In 10 years at the earliest, 20 years at the latest, the heavenly court will start a war against the void demons. At that moment, there is no way for the various clans to avoid it. In a war of that level, even true immortals might fall. As for the diviners, Zhu Qin thought of the news from the Dog Emperor and shook his head. His thoughts were in a mess. This made it impossible for Zhu Qin to completely calm down and cultivate. He could only sit in the main hall with a gloomy expression. An unknown amount of time passed. Only then did he gradually calm down, and then he began to cultivate. After the 9-head dog clans spread the news of their search for the bronze token, the other clans also spread the news at the first possible moment. For the various gods. The reward given by Qin Shujian was an irresistible temptation. For the cultivators of the various clans, the reward given by the various gods was also an irresistible temptation. As a result, the enthusiasm for finding the bronze token was also aroused. Qianyuan's sacred ground. Now that all the clans are looking for the bronze token, it is said that whoever can find the bronze token will get enough resources to cultivate to the 10th tier of the Deva realm. I'm afraid the difficulty of finding the bronze token has greatly increased. Yin Banqing's expression was ugly. He then looked at Qin Yuanbai and Fang Xinglan. Deputy Sacred Lords, have you received a message from the Emperor of Heaven?
Of course we have.
Qin Yuanbai hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. Pass down the order. As long as the person who finds the bronze token gives it to the Qianyuan sacred ground, in addition to the resources to cultivate to the 10th tier of the Deva realm, he will also get an additional Taoist artifact. Hearing this, the others were not surprised. But when Feng Xinglan looked at Qin Yuanbai, the look in his eyes suddenly became strange. Was this really the case? Why did he remember that the reward given by the Emperor of Heaven was the blood essence of a fierce beast at the middle 3 tiers of the true immortal realm, and the complete corpse of a fierce beast at the lower 3 tiers of the true immortal realm? At this moment, when Qin Yuanbai mentioned it, it was reduced countless times. He had his own thoughts. Feng Xinglan did not expose him. Instead, he turned his thoughts to the rewards given by the other clans. In the end, he also sighed in his heart. The middleman is extremely ruthless in making a profit. P.S. I support the original version, Qidian Chinese Network, app, Qidian Book. I am decent. Please vote. Chapter 728. The middleman was making a profit. Feng Xinglan was too lazy to expose this matter. Anyway, if anyone found the bronze token and submitted it, then he and Qin Yuanbai were destined to share the rewards equally. If Qin Yuanbai wanted to take it all for himself, there was no possibility of that at all. It was good for him. Of course, Feng Xinglan had no reason to refuse. After the Qianyuan sacred ground issued the order, the Great Zhao Empire also issued the order. Everyone was looking for the whereabouts of the bronze token. As for the rumor that there was an evil spirit sealed inside the token, the others were also skeptical, because no one knew whether this matter was true or false. But one thing they were sure of was that the bronze token was very precious. Otherwise, the myriad races would not have all moved. However, most of the myriad races were looking for the token to complete the task. Few people wanted to use the token for themselves, because they were not sure what the consequences of using the token would be. It would be fine if there was a treasure, but if it was really a demon, then the loss would be great. Compared to the uncertainty of the token, the reward given by the myriad races was more tempting. The bronze token. In a restaurant, a few players were sitting there. On the table in front of them, there was a piece of paper. On the paper, there was a drawing of a token. It was the bronze token that the myriad races were looking for. Looking at the token, Fu Moyan's expression was strange. For some reason, he felt that the bronze token looked a little familiar. But why did it look familiar? He couldn't remember it for a while. By the way, don't you think that this token looks a little familiar? One of them suddenly said. Hearing this, the others also looked at it seriously. In the end, they were puzzled. If you say so, it looks a little familiar to me too, as if I've seen it somewhere before. The bronze token. By the way, when we were doing the task in the stone forest, didn't we get a bronze token? A thought flashed through a player's mind, and he finally remembered. After his reminder, the others also suddenly remembered. In the end, everyone's eyes fell on Fu Moyan. The bronze token was a long time ago. From the beginning of the game until now, about 10 years had passed in the game. It was not so easy to remember what happened 10 years ago. But after being reminded, it wouldn't be that difficult to recall. Fu Moyan's face darkened. Bronze token. He finally knew why the image of the token in front of him looked so familiar. This was clearly a bronze token that he had obtained from completing a quest when he had just entered the game. Behind the token, it was related to the matter of a cave residence. However, because the cave was not in the stone forest, Fu Moyan never had the chance to open it. Until later. When he was besieging Liang Mountain's fort master, he failed to kill him and was killed instead. He even dropped the bronze medallion. For this reason, Fu Moyan had spent a lot of time looking for it in the past, but to no avail. Over time, thus, he put this matter aside. Now that he was reminded, Fu Moyan finally remembered this dark history, combined with the rewards given by the human race. He had the illusion that he had lost 100 million. The bronze medallion had already been dropped when we surrounded and killed Mount Liang's stronghold master. Originally, I thought that Li Zongwen and the others had obtained the bronze medallion. Now, it seems that the bronze medallion has fallen into the hands of that person. Fu Moyan pointed up with his finger. It was already self-evident. The name of the Emperor of Heaven. Now, no one dared to say it out loud, because there had been many incidents of being struck by lightning. Therefore, basically everyone knew that if they directly called the Emperor of Heaven by his name, they would be struck by lightning. So, what is the purpose of that person looking for the bronze medallion? It's hard to say. Fu Moyan shook his head. He was not sure what Qin Shujian's purpose of looking for the bronze medallion was. Originally, Fu Moyan did not think too much about this matter. However, now that the Heavenly Court was looking for the bronze medallion, he had no choice but to think about it in a certain aspect. If I remember correctly, that person was originally just an ordinary mountain stronghold leader. In 10 years, the other party was able to go from a mountain stronghold leader to the current Emperor of Heaven. It was definitely not a coincidence. The Emperor of Heaven has a big secret. Fu Moyan's mind was spinning wildly. Without a doubt, there was absolutely a heaven-shocking secret existing on that heavenly emperor's body. Or else, it was impossible for him to grow to such an extent in such a short period of time. Was 10 years a long time? If it was in the real world, it would only be a mere 3 years. Moreover, all the players had been in the game for 10 years. But until now, the strongest player had not even entered the divine martial arts realm and was only lingering around the illustrious sage realm. To talk about cheating. Naturally, the players had the biggest cheats. Fu Moyan would never believe that a native could increase his strength so much faster than a player. The other party had a big secret. In fact, he was not the only one who had this guess. Almost everyone had this guess. However, no one knew what the secret of the Emperor of Heaven was. Until now. The other party was looking for the bronze medallion. Combined with the time when he exploded the bronze medallion, Fu Moyan felt that he was close to the truth. Bronze medallion. It was definitely the opportunity for the other party to become the Emperor of Heaven. As for why he was still looking for the bronze medallion, there were only a few possibilities. Firstly, there was more than one bronze medallion. The other party had only obtained one of them. Secondly, the inheritance that the Emperor of Heaven had obtained was not complete. Or rather, the inheritance that the other party had obtained was complete. But each bronze medallion contained a different opportunity. Whether it is the former or the latter, it proves that the bronze medallion is definitely a supreme treasure. Whoever can open it will have the possibility of becoming the Emperor of Heaven. The more Fu Moyan thought about it, the more excited he became. But the more excited he was, the calmer his expression became. Such a secret. Fu Moyan was sure that only the Emperor of Heaven and himself knew about it. So many years had passed. The other party definitely did not remember a small character like him. Find it. I must find the bronze medallion. Fu Moyan quickly made up his mind. He wanted to obtain the bronze medallion, but he definitely would not hand it over to the Heavenly Court to complete the mission. He would use it for himself. What seal of evil! It was all just to scare others. Inside the bronze medallion, there was 100% a supreme opportunity. If he could obtain the opportunity inside, even if he could not replace the Emperor of Heaven's position, he could at least become a top powerhouse. Moreover, not only would he be a powerhouse in the game, but he would also be a top powerhouse in the real world. Perhaps the bronze medallion could completely change his fate. Thinking of this, Fu Moyan's breathing gradually became rapid. His strangeness was also noticed by the others. Captain, what happened? Someone couldn't help but ask. Hearing this, Fu Moyan suddenly sobered up. Now was not the time to think about so many things. The most important thing now was to get the bronze medallion. If he couldn't get the bronze medallion, all of his guesses were just empty talk. Fu Moyan coughed lightly and said, "We must get the bronze medallion. We must not let it fall into the hands of others." Yes, the bronze medallion cannot fall into the hands of others. A male player nodded and said in a deep voice, The reward given by the Qianyuan sacred ground is enough resources to cultivate to the 10th level of the celestial being realm, plus a Taoist artifact. If we can get this reward, our strength will definitely be far ahead of others. If I'm not wrong, the resources that are enough to cultivate to the 10th level of the celestial being realm definitely include supreme techniques that can lead to the celestial being realm. If they wanted to break through to the 10th level of the celestial being realm, it wasn't just relying on ordinary resources. Techniques were also very important.
So,
the reward given by the Qianyuan sacred ground was very likely to be a divine-level technique. And it was very likely that it was a top divine-level technique. In addition to that, the reward of a Taoist artifact was also not low. Even if the strength of the players at this stage had improved, there were still very few players who could really possess a Taoist artifact. This kind of treasure was born by heaven and earth. It wasn't so easy to get. Now that there were more and more new areas, players had the opportunity to get some innate spiritual objects or Taoist artifacts. If it was in the past, then there was no possibility at all.
Yes.
Fu Moyan nodded. He didn't explain anything. He was the only one who knew the secret of the bronze medallion. As for the others, there was no need to know so much. Immediately send out people to find the bronze medallion. Fu Moyan immediately made a decision. In the real world, his identity was not ordinary, so he had cultivated a lot of people in the game. These people, to a certain extent, they were reliable. It was just that the rewards given by the heavenly court were too high. If someone really got the bronze medallion, they might not necessarily give it to him. It was more likely that he would secretly submit the bronze medallion and then receive the task reward. Regarding this, although Fu Moyan had some guesses in his heart, there was no way to stop it. Anything. It was often the most difficult thing to control. Right now, he could only use the power at his disposal to find clues first. As for other things, they would be decided after finding clues. Soon, they left the restaurant. The first thing Fu Moyan did was to bring his men and rush towards the stone forest, because that was where he first got the bronze medallion. If there was a place where the bronze medallion might be, then the first place was the most likely place. When Fu Moyan and the others went to the stone forest, the other players were also wantonly searching for the whereabouts of the bronze medallion. There was no other way, because the rewards were really too generous. As long as they got the reward, even the weakest player would be able to jump to the top among the players. A salted fish turning over a new leaf, but they didn't want to get it.
So,
finding the bronze medallion became the most important thing for all the players. However, no one knew how many bronze medallions there were and where they were. Hundreds of millions of players were looking for them, but only a few people could get the reward in the end. But everyone thought that they would be the lucky one. The bronze medallion. Ningbo, who was walking in the East Continent, was stunned when he heard the news. He didn't know much about the bronze medallion, but the reward given by the Qianyuan sacred ground was what Ningbo really wanted. If I can get enough resources to cultivate to the 10th level of the celestial being realm, then my future path will be much easier. Ningbo's eyes flickered. He hadn't really stepped into the celestial being realm yet because it was too difficult to open the apertures. If he wanted to open the apertures quickly, therefore they needed to have enough resources. Without resources, it was undoubtedly extremely difficult to break through to the celestial being realm. But the problem was that as the disciple of the Emperor of Heaven, he didn't have too many resources. If he wanted to improve his realm, he could only rely on himself in the end. For this, Ningbo valued the reward given by the Qianyuan sacred ground even more. If he could really find the bronze medallion, then his future cultivation would be almost smooth. At this time, the earth shook. A huge monster was coming this way. Ningbo focused his mind, and his eyes fell on the monster in front of him. He wanted to find resources. There was no place with more resources than the endless mountains. Even after several years of exploration, there were still many resources in the endless mountains. There were just resources. Naturally, there were monsters. Over the years, many people had entered the endless mountains to hunt monsters, causing some of the weaker monsters to almost die out. In contrast, some of the stronger demonic beasts in the endless mountains managed to survive. So now that they entered the Endless Mountains, either they didn't encounter monsters, or they encountered monsters with tyrannical strength. 6th level of the Divine Martial Realm or 7th level of the Divine Martial Realm. Ningbo's eyes fell on the monster, and he had a rough judgment in his heart. He could only judge the level of qi and blood. He could roughly guess the monster's strength. He had no reason to be afraid of monsters of such strength. He stepped into the void and suddenly unsheathed the long sword at his waist. The sword light poured out like autumn water and then turned into a storm-like power, causing a shocking sword qi to erupt in the void. Whoosh! The sword light appeared quickly and disappeared quickly. The monster didn't have any reaction. It was directly beheaded by the long sword and fell to the ground, motionless. Ningbo looked at the huge monster corpse. According to the method of the Red Lotus of Purgation recorded in the Guthyuan Ancestral Classic, he directly condensed a ball of red lotus flames in the void and then covered the monster. According to the records, the Red Lotus of Purgation can refine the creatures of heaven and earth and transform them into its own energy. Let me see if this is true. He thought of what Qin Shujian said to him. The Red Lotus of Purgation might be the opportunity to cultivate the Guthyuan Ancestral Classic to perfection. Heavenly Court, Heavenly Palace. After Qin Shujian dismissed the gods, he entered the inner world by himself. He had already given the order to find the bronze token, but he wasn't completely sure if he could find it. But there was one thing that Qin Shujian was sure of, and that was that there was definitely more than one bronze token. There were still 2 doors in the magnificent cavern that hadn't been opened. In other words, there were at least 2 bronze tokens. It wasn't impossible for there to be more. After passing down the order, Qin Shujian didn't waste too much time on the bronze token. It doesn't matter whether the magnificent cavern is an enemy or a friend. It's just a backup plan for a Dao fruit. Who wasn't a Dao fruit in the past? It's not that easy for him to overturn the world. Qin Shujian sneered in his heart. The reason why he was looking for the magnificent cavern was that he didn't want to cause too many twists and turns in the great wide world. It didn't mean that he was afraid of the other party. If the magnificent cavern was really a backup plan left behind by the enemy, he wouldn't be too afraid. As long as the other party dared to show up, Qin Shujian could let the other party understand what a destructive blow was. He would establish the heavenly court and rule over all races. Now, the power of heaven and earth in the entire great wide world was gathered on him. It could be said that, even if an ancient Dao fruit expert returned, in the great wide world, he definitely wouldn't have the capital to contend with him. If the heavenly court hadn't been established, Qin Shujian wasn't absolutely confident that he could control the great wide world in his hands.
But now,
he didn't have much to worry about. The existence of the heavenly court allowed Qin Shujian to have absolute authority in the great wide world. Any enemy who dared to appear in the great wide world, he was confident that he could suppress them, just like the previous swordmaster. Fortunately, the swordmaster was on his side. Otherwise, the moment the swordmaster transcended the tribulation and became an immortal, he would also die. In the inner world, the dragon vein had grown stronger, and heaven and earth had expanded a lot. Qin Shujian first took out the crystal that Yang gave him, then directly crushed it with force. The crystal shattered. Immediately, a scorching energy burst out. Rumble, the sky shook violently, and the mother stream of laws also shook violently. In the middle of the mother stream, a vast and long river of rules had been born out of nothing. The moment the long river of laws was born, in the far east of the world, a terrifying energy was being nurtured. Qin Shujian took a step forward and appeared in a valley. In the valley, the power of the fire spirits of heaven and earth gathered. The rich fire spirit power condensed into a huge ball, and the terrifying temperature seemed to be able to incinerate everything. The suns. Qin Shujian was not afraid of the temperature. He slowly approached the fireball, and the scorching temperature made his face slightly red. He didn't expect it. After the mother stream of laws gave birth to the seed of the sun law, the inner world would directly give birth to the sun. To maintain the operation of heaven and earth, the The sun and moon were both necessary things. At this moment, the birth of the sun made the inner world one step closer to perfection. Qin Shu Jian stretched out his hand and directly reached into the sun. The scorching true sun fire did not hurt him at all, because he was the one who opened up the inner world. Therefore, everything that was born inside could not cause any harm to it. Looking at the sun, Qin Shu Jian had a smile on his face. The sun has been born. As long as I get the moon law, then the inner world can officially be promoted to a medium-class world. After that, the smile on his face suddenly faded a little. The one in heavenly abyss should be the embodiment of the lunar law. It's not easy to make a deal with him normally, but if I don't get the moon law, my strength will not improve. Without the moon law, if the inner world could not be promoted to a medium-class world, Qin Shu Jian could not complete the transformation. Although the inner world could expand even without the moon law, how could that kind of increase in strength be compared to the promotion to a medium-class world? Not to mention the current inner world. Even if it was doubled on the original foundation, even if it could increase his strength, there was no way to fight against a true immortal of the upper 3 grades. On the contrary, if he could get the moon law, Qin Shu Jian was confident that his strength would be completely transformed. When that time came, he would be qualified to fight against the Void Demon. But before that, it was impossible to have the strength to fight against the Demon Emperor. After glancing at the sun, Qin Shu Jian left the valley and came to the beginning of the Dragon Vein. The original beginning of the Dragon Vein was just a plain. But now, after the evolution of heaven and earth, the plain had become a huge mountain range. The mountains rose and fell. There were huge peaks that towered into the clouds. Except for the absence of the aura of living creatures, the scene in front of him was no different from a blessed enclave. He stretched out his hand. The investiture of the gods had already appeared in Qin Shu Jian's hands. Then, with a thought, the flesh and blood of the beast sealed in the investiture of the gods scattered on the ground in large amounts, because the beasts only cultivated their bodies and did not cultivate rules. Therefore, the power of the flesh and blood, except for the surging energy, did not have any trace of rule power. Qin Shu Jian did not use the heaven and earth to refine the flesh and blood like last time. He directly used the simplest method to throw the flesh and blood into the inner world. A large amount of beast flesh and blood appeared. It made the dragon vein below let out a pleasant dragon roar. Obviously, under the nurturing of the surging energy, the dragon vein also felt joy.
Then,
the dragon vein expanded, and so did the heaven and earth. To a certain extent, the energy contained in the flesh and blood of a true immortal was comparable to a large spirit vein, or even better. After an unknown period of time, suddenly, a deafening dragon roar sounded between heaven and earth. Then, the mountain range below rose and fell, as if there was a true dragon moving inside. In the inner world, many spirit veins that were in the process of nurturing had all been successfully nurtured at this moment. At the same time, the extremely rich spiritual energy contained in the inner world had also undergone a transformation at this time. The spiritual energy was still the same spiritual energy, but to a certain extent it was already beyond what it could be in the past. Qin Shu Jian stretched out his hand and took a wisp of spiritual energy. He immediately smiled. Innate spiritual energy. It seems that the flesh and blood of many true immortals has completely transformed the dragon vein into an innate dragon vein. Only the innate dragon vein can nurture innate spiritual energy. It's a pity that there are no living creatures in the inner world now. Otherwise, with the innate spiritual energy as cultivation, it won't take long for a group of powerful cultivators to be born. Innate spiritual energy. It was a powerful spiritual energy that would only be born when the heaven and earth were just born. It was different from the original spiritual energy. No matter how one looked at it, innate spiritual energy was not something that acquired spiritual energy could compare to. Now that innate spiritual energy was born, the foundation of the inner world had become more vigorous. As long as living creatures were born, there would be an endless stream of experts in the future. If it weren't for the fact that the inner world was his secret and his main foundation, Qin Shu Jian would have wanted to let the cultivators of the vast thousand worlds come here to cultivate. But after thinking about it, he dispelled this dangerous idea. The inner world was his foundation, and he absolutely could not allow any mistakes. If something went wrong, then it would be a devastating blow to him. After taking another look at the inner world, Qin Shu Jian left this place. In the inner hall of the heavenly palace, Qin Shu Jian suddenly opened his eyes. Immediately, electricity appeared in the room, causing the entire inner hall to explode like thunder. The phenomenon appeared very quickly, but it also disappeared very quickly.
Suddenly,
He looked up at the sky above the heavenly palace, and his expression changed slightly. Outside, in the sky above the heavenly court, a vermilion bird that seemed to be bathed in the true fire of the sun was flying in the sky above. Gradually, endless flames were born out of nothing, and then enveloped holy fire. The temperature was scorching. It made the entire heavenly court hot. Holy fire did not care about such a change at all. Now, he was completely immersed in a mysterious state, and he did not even notice what he was doing. Flames danced in the sky. One could vaguely see the power of the laws in it. All of a sudden, the mother stream of laws shook, and the vermilion bird spread its wings and directly crashed into the mother stream of laws. It was a powerful pressure. It instantly spread throughout the heavenly court. In a palace in the distance, the Blade Master woke up from his cultivation. What a rich, true fire of the sun. No, it's not just the true fire of the sun, but also the smell of innate divine fire. Could it be that an expert who has mastered innate divine fire has begun to prove his Tao? The Blade Master quickly thought of the vermilion bird that often wandered in the sky above the heavenly court. As for holy fire, he did not know much, but he knew a lot about the vermilion bird. It did not matter which era it was. The Vermilion Bird clan was not a weak clan and had produced many experts. Although they had never produced a Tao fruit expert, one could not deny the Vermilion Bird clan's strength. In particular, the innate divine fire that the Vermilion Bird clan had mastered could threaten Tao fruit experts when cultivated to the extreme. That was the reason. It made the Blade Master take a few more glances at holy fire. Now that an expert who had mastered innate divine fire had proven his Tao, only the Vermilion Bird in the entire heavenly court could do it. Speaking of which, a true immortal Vermilion Bird is a good choice for a mount. It's much better than that ox. The Blade Master's eyes turned cold when he thought of Neodali. Ever since he had become a Tao fruit expert, few people or oxen had dared to be so rude to him. Unless they were at the same level as him. Those who dared to be rude had all died long ago. Therefore, the Blade Master had a great desire to kill Neodali. If not for giving face to Qin Shu Jian, he would have killed him long ago.
just you wait.
The Blade Master suppressed the killing intent in his heart. If he had the chance, he would definitely teach him a lesson.
But now,
He didn't want to be so calculative with him for the time being. The mother stream of laws shook, indicating that an expert had become an immortal. As the number of true immortals of the 10,000 races increased, the phenomenon of immortal ascension was no longer a novelty to others. However, every time someone proved their Tao, it would still attract a lot of attention. There were many true immortals now. But seriously speaking, many races didn't have true immortals overseeing them. Most of the remaining races only had one true immortal. The birth of a new true immortal indicated the rise of a new race. Soon, a vermilion bird charged out of the mother stream of laws. When all the experts saw the vermilion bird, their faces were filled with astonishment. An expert of the Vermilion Bird clan. Since ancient times, the Vermilion Bird clan had declined. Now, there were only a few mighty figures overseeing them. It could be said that, ever since the monster race split, the Vermilion Bird clan had been a small race that couldn't be any smaller. If not for the fact that they were backed by the human race, the Vermilion Bird clan might have been wiped out by other races long before the Heavenly Court was established. No one expected that the Vermilion Bird clan actually had an expert who could prove their Tao. Compared to the shock of the other races, the Vermilion Bird clan was completely immersed in joy. The clan leader has proven his Tao. The clan leader has proven his Tao and become an immortal. Our Vermilion Bird clan can officially join the ranks of the big clans. Many of the elders of the Vermilion Bird tribe were overjoyed. Fire Sage had proven his Tao. For the Vermilion Bird clan, it was a shocking, joyous event. Ever since the ancient times were destroyed, the Vermilion Bird clan had never produced a single true immortal. It was also because of this that the Vermilion Bird clan had declined step by step. Now, an expert had become an immortal. That meant that the Vermilion Bird clan would officially walk out of the haze after the ancient times were destroyed and have hope of rising again. An elder looked excited. The clan leader has proven his Tao and become an immortal. If a descendant is born, they will definitely have a powerful bloodline. When that time comes, our Vermilion Bird clan will have endless powerhouses. A descendant of a true immortal. They were destined to be powerhouses in the future. As long as a race gave birth to a true immortal, they would be able to use it as a foundation to give birth to enough powerhouses. Hearing this, however, someone shook his head and said, "The clan leader has already become an immortal. Who would be worthy of the clan leader? The other true immortals might not be suitable either. Moreover, if the clan leader marries someone from another clan, it is still unknown whether the Vermilion Bird clan will be born." Hearing this, the elder who had spoken first retracted his smile a little. Indeed, if the clan leader marries someone from another clan, the Vermilion Bird clan might not be born. No one could be certain about this kind of thing. Soon, another elder spoke up. Actually, among all the races, only the human race is the most suitable for marriage. In the ancient times, our Vermilion Bird clan had a powerhouse who married a human. At that time, the descendants born were all from the Vermilion Bird clan. If the clan leader marries someone, the best way is to find a target from the human race. The human race's bloodline was like the sea. Any race that married a human would have a high probability of giving birth to a descendant of the human race. Therefore, in the ancient times, many races liked to marry powerhouses from the human race. On one hand, it could ensure the continuation of a powerful bloodline. On the other hand, it could increase the strength of their own race. The elder who spoke first nodded. It is indeed a good choice to marry a human. There are many true immortals in the human race now, but Emperor Zhao is already married and is not a suitable target. The clan leader can't be Emperor Zhao's concubine. As for Shi Yang, it's not very suitable either. After all, if the clan leader marries someone, she will be a generation younger than Emperor Zhao. If that's the case, there are only two suitable candidates for the marriage. After that, the others' eyes flickered. At this point, everyone was very clear in their hearts. There were only two suitable candidates. One was the Eastern War God, Xiao Qingfeng, and the other was the current Emperor of Heaven, Qin Shujian. The former was very powerful. The latter was even more powerful. If they had to choose between the two, they would be more willing to marry Sage Fire and Qin Shujian. Because once the Vermilion Bird clan married the Emperor of Heaven, they would become one of the top clans. Moreover, the Emperor of Heaven's bloodline was very powerful. The descendant born from the marriage between the two would definitely be terrifyingly talented. After a while, someone thought of something and said with a frown, "Ever since the Emperor of Heaven became famous, I have never heard of him being involved with any woman. It won't be easy for the clan leader to marry the Emperor of Heaven. If the Emperor of Heaven doesn't want to, we can't force him. Besides, maybe the Emperor of Heaven." At this point, he directly shut his mouth. Ever since he became famous and had great power, he had never been involved with any woman.
To be honest,
such a person was either impotent or he had a penchant for homosexual men. With the means of the strong, the former was naturally impossible. In that case, only the latter was more likely. However, even if he wasn't in front of Qin Shujian, he didn't dare to say these words carelessly. Slandering the Emperor of Heaven was a capital offense. Once discovered, no one would be able to save his life. "Shut up, the Emperor of Heaven isn't that kind of person." The others' expressions also changed. However, after the scolding, Their faces were also filled with bewilderment and uncertainty. Was it really not? That might not be the case. The elder who spoke first interrupted everyone's speculation. It's meaningless to think so much. The clan leader is extremely beautiful. Even compared to the Moon Empress of the Moon Clan, she's not much inferior. We'll discuss this matter again after the clan leader becomes an immortal. When the time comes, as long as the clan leader takes the initiative, I'm sure the Emperor of Heaven will have no reason to refuse. No matter what, the strong must have descendants. Otherwise, when their lifespan runs out and they pass away, wouldn't they be ashamed to face their ancestors?
Hearing this,
The others also nodded slightly. At this moment, Holy Fire had already opened up the battlefield of laws. No one stopped her. Her progress in the battlefield of laws was very smooth. It only took her half a day to reach the end of the river of laws. There was a monument of laws standing there. Without any twists and turns or accidents, Holy Fire easily left her unique mark on the monument of laws. The moment she left her mark, golden flowers scattered in the sky and golden lotuses bloomed on the ground. Heaven and earth were congratulating the birth of a true immortal. In the heavenly court, a huge vermilion bird spread its wings. Endless flames were emitted from its body, causing the temperature of the heavenly court to rise wildly. It was the complete opposite of the true sun fire in the sky.
but soon,
The flames subsided. The vermilion bird also disappeared, transforming into a beautiful woman in a fiery red dress with a graceful figure. She slowly walked toward Qin Shujian. When she stood in front of him, Holy Fire bowed sideways with a charming smile on her face. Greetings, Emperor of Heavens. P.S. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 729. Very good. Qin Shujian smiled faintly and looked at Fire Sage. You've already become a perfected immortal, so it's no longer appropriate for you to be called Fire Sage. The Vermilion Bird race has already separated from the Demon race and established their own race. From today onwards, you should be the Vermilion Bird Emperor. Any race. They all had emperors. The Vermilion Bird race was originally one of the many races of the Demon race, so they only had a leader and were not qualified to give birth to an emperor. But it was different now. The Vermilion Bird race had already separated from the Demon race, and Fire Sage was no longer the Demon Saint of the Demon race, but the Emperor of the Vermilion Bird race. Originally, she was only a heavenly human cultivator, so it didn't matter if she was called Emperor or not. But now that she had become an immortal, she should be called Emperor.
then,
Qin Shujian took out the investiture of the gods. There was a faint vibration of laws between heaven and earth, causing an additional deity position to appear. The Vermilion Bird race is fire type. From today onwards, you will be the Sun Lord. Qin Shujian said in a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, the Vermilion Bird Emperor's name had already appeared on the investiture of the gods. At the same time, the gods also felt something. There was another deity position in the heavenly court. At the moment of the investiture of the gods, the Vermilion Bird Emperor had just broken through to the perfected immortal realm and had not completely stabilized. Under the power of the investiture of the gods, he immediately stabilized his realm. Not only that, he also took a big step forward on his original foundation, the deity position of the Sun Lord. It was not in the 365 Zhou Tian constellations. In terms of status, although it was not as good as the 5 imperial emperors, it was not weaker than the 4 war gods. Originally, Qin Shujian could not confer the deity position of the Sun Lord. But after entering the Sea of Death, he obtained the Sun Law from Yang. In addition, when the Vermilion Bird Emperor broke through to the perfected immortal realm, he directly grasped the Khanate Divine Fire. Khanate Divine Fire. It was in existence on the same level as the true Sun Fire.
so,
The other party was qualified to be the Sun Lord. Just as the deity position of the Sun Lord was taken, there was another riot in the depths of the Sea of Death. How dare you lie to me? The stone statue shook, and Yang let out an angry roar. Just now, he realized that there was a flaw in his sun love. A portion of his originally perfect and flawless power had been forcibly snatched away by heaven and earth. Even if the portion that had been taken away was only a negligible portion of his overall strength. But even so, Yang was also furious, because the lack of a trace of power also proved that there was a flaw in one's body. Since the birth of heaven and earth, the sun law gave birth to sentience and eventually turned into a living being. Ever since then, no living being had the right to comprehend the solar law. Even the heavens and earth had no way of controlling the solar law. This was because the sun law possessed sentience. After turning into a living being, he would only be under his control. Yang. This was how it was born. For countless years, no one had ever been able to snatch the solar laws from Yang's hands. This was also the source of his power.
But now,
Yang discovered that his power was lacking. The only person who could have caused all this was Qin Shujian. That was because the other party had taken away a strand of his laws. Now that there was a problem, there was no other explanation. He was furious. Yang also found it hard to imagine. He didn't understand how Qin Shujian did it. The reason why he separated a strand of his own laws was because Yang wasn't worried at all that the lack of a strand of laws would affect him. As long as he spent some time, he would be able to recover the consumed rule power. But now, Yang discovered that the strand of rule power had forever been out of his control. In other words, there was no possibility of recovering the lost power. Not only that, others could also use that strand of rule power to compete with him for the sun law that originally belonged to his body. At this moment, Yang's heart was filled with monstrous killing intent. If Qin Shujian had been in front of him, he would have definitely skinned him alive. What did he mean by releasing him within 1,000 years? Yang didn't believe it at all. Even what Qin Shujian originally said, he had a question mark in his heart. This was the real reason why Yang was furious. Deceiving himself. Stealing his own power. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't walk out of the depths of the Death Sea region, he would definitely kill Qin Shujian.
But now,
Yang could only roar in the Death Sea region. There was nothing he could do. The seal here completely restricted him. The riot in the Death Sea region. Naturally, it attracted the berserk beasts to flee. Heavenly Rune Island had long been relieved of this. When the berserk beasts attacked, the 9 stone steels that Qin Shujian left in Heavenly Rune Island vibrated. A large array directly covered Heavenly Rune Island. No matter how the berserk beasts attacked, there was no way to break the array. But to directly kill the berserk beasts like the Emperor's restriction, there was no way to do it. The array left behind by the Emperor of Heaven is indeed extraordinary. Looking at the berserk beasts attacking the array, Xia Chao's heart calmed down. The berserk beasts were powerful, but their attacks couldn't shake the array in the slightest. Now that the Emperor's restriction was seriously exhausted, it was in a recovery stage. It was simply impossible to summon the ancient emperors to kill the enemies. Now, he could only rely on the array to resist the attacks of the berserk beasts. Originally, Xia Chao wasn't sure if the array could withstand the attacks of so many true immortal berserk beasts.
But now,
there was no problem. When the array was activated, Qin Shujian also sensed it. He tilted his head to look in the direction of the Sea of Death and frowned slightly. The array was activated. There should be powerful berserk beasts attacking Heavenly Rune Island. The berserk beasts attacked, causing the sea to riot. It seems that the matter of conferring the Sun Sovereign has been noticed by Yang. But that's also true. The Sun Sovereign's deity position took advantage of the gap in his power to condense the deity position. As the incarnation of the Sun's laws, it's normal for Yang to sense it. Qin Shujian didn't care too much. Yang was already locked there by the universal chains. It was impossible for him to leave the depths of the Sea of Death. The only thing he could do right now was to roar a couple of times. To this, Qin Shujian didn't feel any pain or itch. As for the attack of the berserk beasts, the array he left in Heavenly Rune Island was enough to ensure that there would be no problems. Retracting his gaze, Qin Shu Jian looked at Fire Sage again and said, "Since you are already the Sun's sovereign, you should be resting in the sun. But now the sun is occupied by other forces and is not suitable to be your residence. Later, I will refine a palace for you as your foundation in the heavenly court." "Thank you, Emperor of Heaven." The Vermilion Bird Emperor smiled and said, "I have already broken through to the true immortal realm. It is time for me to return to the Vermilion Bird tribe." Go. Qin Shu Jian didn't stop him. After the Vermilion Bird Emperor bowed again, he left the heavenly court and headed for the Vermilion Bird tribe's territory. Seeing this, Qin Shu Jian took out the materials and began to refine the palace again. It was different from last time. This time, he decided to refine all the deity position palaces that might exist in the future in one go. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if he had to refine a palace every time a new deity position appeared. If I want to refine a palace in the heavenly court, I have to be at least a second-level blacksmith. Although there are blacksmiths in the human race, they are all at the first level and are still far from the second. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to worry about refining the palaces. Qin Shu Jian shook his head inwardly as he withstood the fire. As the Emperor of Heaven, it was a bit degrading for him to have to do things personally. But there was no other way. The heavenly court had just been established. Although there were many true immortals, there weren't any special talents. It wasn't that easy to nurture experts in the Tao of forging and other aspects. If it was just cultivation alone, Qin Shu Jian had many ways to raise the cultivation of others. However, there were no shortcuts when it came to methods like forging and formation Tao. If one wanted to advance, they could only rely on their own talent and potential. If someone can break through to the third level in the Grandmaster realm, I have a way to add a few more deity positions in the heavenly court. In the third era, there were talents in all aspects in the heavenly court. Compared to the third era, the heavenly court of this era is really much worse. Qin Shu Jian sighed. Among the 10,000 races, the ones most likely to hold these deity positions were the humans. Now, in the human race, there were also second-level grandmasters. Feng Xinglan was one of them, but the second level. He wasn't qualified to become a deity yet. Only when he broke through to the third level could he barely bear a deity position. As for the Saint Realm, he was completely qualified to become a deity. Deity position. It was a position bestowed by heaven and earth. Not everyone could become a deity casually. If someone who wasn't strong enough was made a deity without permission, the greatest possibility was that they would be crushed by the power of the deity position. It was impossible for them to soar into the sky and directly become a top expert. Some special deity positions. Not only did they test a cultivator's strength, but they also tested a cultivator's achievements in that Tao. If one didn't meet the standards in any aspect, there was no possibility of inheriting a deity position. Therefore, although the human race was popular now, there was no way to produce a powerhouse who could control a deity position. Later on, Qin Shu Jian had been refining palaces all this time. The thunder tribulation descended. Then it quickly disappeared. In the end, hundreds of palaces appeared directly and scattered in the heavenly court. For this, once again, Qin Shu Jian perfected the heavenly court's array, embedding the palaces he had just refined into the eye of the array. Then, the heavenly court's array became even more perfect. After doing all this, Qin Shu Jian disappeared from where he was. In the next instant, he was standing in front of a palace. The palace door opened automatically. He strode into the room. Why did the Qin Emperor suddenly come here? The Blade Master sat cross-legged on the futon, showing no intention of getting up. Qin Shu Jian didn't care at all. He walked in front of the Blade Master. With a wave of his hand, a stone stool appeared. Then he sat down. I want to ask, when you died in the past, did you leave behind any backup plans such as things like sealed power?
Hearing this,
The Blade Master showed a speechless expression. Do you think I did? I died at the end of an era. It's not easy to reincarnate and cultivate again. How could I leave behind any power? If I did, I wouldn't have just broken through to the true immortal realm. Besides, didn't the Qin Emperor also die in the third era? You should know very well whether you left behind any power. To the Blade Master, Qin Shujian's question was very low level. Qin Shujian shook his head. I'm different from you. You should have been silent until this era to cultivate again. But I've been reincarnated several times since I died in the third era. The new path I'm taking now requires the lunar law. But the lunar law of this era has already gained sentience and become a real living thing. Gained sentience? The Blade Master's expression changed slightly. He said in a deep voice, if the heaven and earth law gained sentience, it would be at least the strength of an upper-level true immortal. Among them, the lunar and solar laws are the strongest. If it really gained sentience, it would be at the half-step Tao fruit level. Could it be that the thing in Heavenly Abyss is actually the incarnation of the lunar law? From Qin Shujian's words, the Blade Master thought of many things. He had just returned from the real world, but it didn't mean that he didn't know anything about the vast thousand worlds. On the contrary, the Blade Master had always been very familiar with the vast thousand worlds. It was just that in the last year, he had a premonition that the deceiving order was about to be broken. He was busy making the final arrangements and didn't know much about the vast thousand worlds. Therefore, the Blade Master didn't know about the establishment of the Heavenly Court. But as early as when the 4 continents were connected, Heavenly Abyss was already known to the players of the Eastern continent. The Sea of Death was where the sun rose. Heavenly Abyss was where the lunar law rose. When Qin Shujian said that the lunar law gained sentience, the Blade Master already understood what was going on. The lunar and solar laws coexist. If the lunar law gained sentience, then the solar law also gained sentience, right? The Blade Master looked at Qin Shujian. Although it was a question, there was certainty in his words. Qin Shujian nodded. That's right. The solar law also gained sentience and exists in the Sea of Death. But because of the universal chain, the solar law was also sealed there. I obtained a wisp of the solar law from him long ago. Now, I'm only missing the lunar law. But the incarnation of the lunar law is a little difficult to deal with. If I don't use some tricks, I can't continue the discussion. Do you really not have any tricks left? Qin Shujian was also a little unwilling to give up. The solar law could still be considered a rational and ambitious living being. It could be talked to and deceived. But the lunar law, there was no way to communicate normally. He hadn't entered the depths of Heavenly Abyss and hadn't completely encountered the lunar law. But just based on the previous exchanges, Qin Shujian could more or less make a judgment. The Blade Master looked troubled. There's no way to leave behind the power of the Tao fruit level. At the end of the era, once the experts at our level die, most of the power will die with them. Of course, it's impossible for you to say that there's nothing left behind. I have a few strands of saber chi on me, but I don't know if they'll work on you. Saber chi? Qin Shujian raised his eyebrows. The Blade Master was a top expert of the second era. He had reached the Tao fruit level with his saber Tao. That was why he was qualified to be called the Blade Master. If the Blade Master really left behind saber chi, even if it was just one strand, it would be very useful. However, he felt that something was wrong in front of the Blade Master. Take a look for yourself. The Blade Master didn't want to say more. He took out a stone ball from somewhere and tossed it to Qin Shujian. He reached out and caught the stone ball. Qin Shujian looked a little confused. This is? My saber chi is sealed in it. Cough. But you know that there's no way to leave behind the power of the Tao fruit level. But in terms of aura, there should be no problem. The Blade Master looked embarrassed and coughed softly. Originally, I only kept this thing in case I needed it. Since you want it, I'll give you one. Do as you see fit. It's best if you can trick the Supreme Yin Law. If you can't, think of a way to escape. I can't help you with the rest. Hearing that, Qin Shujian completely understood. The so-called saber chi was just an empty shell. To put it simply, it was purely to scare people. If he really wanted to use it, it probably wouldn't be possible. He didn't expect that the Blade Master would leave behind such a backup plan. Instantly, a faint smile appeared on Qin Shujian's face. Seeing his smile, the embarrassed look on the Blade Master's face disappeared a lot. he said disdainfully. Who knows what will happen when you're reborn? If you encounter an enemy, you can always save your life by leaving some tricks behind. This is called nipping the problem in the bud. At least you won't die as soon as you come out. That's true. Qin Shujian nodded. He also agreed with the Blade Master's approach. Right now, the Heavenly Court doesn't have a suitable deity position. If there is a suitable one, I can give you one. With the support of the deity position, your strength should recover quickly enough. Forget it. We'll talk about the deity position later. The Blade Master shook his head, not wanting to talk about this matter. He had never thought about it. He wanted to accept the deity position of the Heavenly Court, because if he did that, he would be equivalent to being the Emperor of Heaven's subordinate. Naturally, he would be inferior. As a top expert of the Second Era, the Blade Master simply couldn't submit to others. Even if it was just accepting a deity position in a disguised way, it wouldn't be considered a true submission. A Dao fruit expert. Naturally, he had the pride of a Dao fruit expert. If you don't want to, then forget it. In another 10 or 20 years, the Heavenly Court will attack the Void Demons. By then, how much strength can you recover? Qin Shujian didn't talk much about the deity position. He was just casually mentioning it. If the Blade Master wanted to, he could think of a way to establish another deity position in the investiture of the gods. Since the Blade Master wasn't willing, then there was nothing more to say. The Blade Master said, in 10 or 20 years, I should be able to recover to the 5th or 6th level of the true immortal realm. However, it still depends on the specific situation. Now that the Heavenly Court's stellar energy is rich, it might be even higher. Compared to the Heavenly Court of the Second Era, although the Heavenly Court of this era isn't as strong, it's much better in terms of stellar energy. That's for sure. The stellar energy of this era has been accumulating since the birth of the universe. No expert has been able to draw it down. The energy that has been accumulating for hundreds of millions of years naturally can't be compared to the other eras now that it's being drawn down. Qin Shujian smiled. If there was anything that this era surpassed the other eras, then the rich stellar energy was one of them. At least hundreds of millions of years had passed since the birth of the universe. So much time had passed. The power of the stars had already accumulated to a terrifying level. Therefore, under the illumination of the stellar energy, it was normal for the Heavenly Court to become rich. Not to mention the Heavenly Court. Even the stellar energy of the 4 continents was comparable to the Heavenly Court of the Third Era. In other words, now, the living beings of the 4 continents were cultivating in an environment comparable to the Heavenly Court of the Third Era. Naturally, their progress had reached an astonishing level. The stellar energy that exists in the outer realm hasn't reached the stage where it's really rich. If we can move the stellar energy into the great wide world, then it'll be truly useful. The Blade Master shook his head. In his opinion, the Heavenly Court hadn't fully unleashed the stellar energy yet. In the other eras, the stellar energy existed in the heavens and earth. It wasn't because the stellar energy originally existed in the heavens and earth, but because an expert used a great divine ability and great method to move the stellar energy into the great wide world. He wanted to achieve this step. One had to at least have the strength of an upper 3 levels of the true immortal realm. Qin Shujian said, when the void demon is dealt with, it won't be a big problem to move the stellar energy. After saying that, he also stood up from the stone bench. I'm leaving. I have to get the lunar law as soon as possible. Otherwise, it'll be quite troublesome for me to break through in my strength. Go. Don't disturb me if you have nothing to do. The Blade Master looked impatient. Seeing this, Qin Shujian turned and left. After he left, the door of the hall closed automatically. At the entrance of the Heavenly Palace's outer hall, Niu Dali was sleeping soundly. When Qin Shujian appeared, he opened his eyes as if he had sensed something. Instantly, Niu Dali stood up from the ground. Emperor of Heaven, let's make a trip to Heavenly Abyss. Qin Shujian sat sideways on Niu Dali's back and said indifferently. Niu Dali was stunned for a moment, then hurriedly flew into the air and headed toward Heavenly Abyss. The Heavenly Court existed in the astral wind layer, but strictly speaking, it was above the eastern continent. Heavenly Abyss existed at the limit of the western continent. From the eastern continent to Heavenly Abyss, it was almost equivalent to crossing the entire great wide world. Even with Neodali's strength, it would take a lot of time to cross the great wide world. In the void, Neodali could not help but ask, Emperor of Heaven, what are we going to do in Heavenly Abyss? Go to Heavenly Abyss to get something. When you get there, don't talk nonsense and don't show any timid expression. If you ruin my business, I will not let you off easily. Qin Shujian warned. Originally, he wanted to go to Heavenly Abyss alone like last time. But after thinking about it, Qin Shujian still decided to ride Neodali over. No matter what, Neodali was also his mount. It would not be appropriate to leave him in the Heavenly Palace. When necessary, he still needed to take him out for a walk.
So,
Qin Shujian simply took Neodali with him and went to Heavenly Abyss for a walk. Ever since the Heavenly Court became a god, the Devil Clan officially moved out of Heavenly Abyss and entered the northern continent. The fluctuations that erupted from Heavenly Abyss made the Devil Clan not dare to stay in this place for long. After all, if there was another riot, the Devil Clan would suffer heavy losses. In the past, they did not leave Heavenly Abyss because they had no choice. Now they had a chance. The Devil Clan naturally would not let it go so easily.
So,
Now, within the range of Heavenly Abyss, there was no longer any living creature. No one was not afraid of death. If Heavenly Abyss had not rioted for many years in the past, it would have been fine. Now, in just a few years, Heavenly Abyss had rioted several times. They were not sure either. When would the next riot in Heavenly Abyss be? If they happened to encounter it, it would definitely be a dead end. A day later, Neodali carried Qin Shujian and entered the range of Heavenly Abyss. Just as he entered the range of Heavenly Abyss, he sensed that the surroundings were filled with a cold aura. Emperor of Heaven, this place is unusual. Feeling the aura of Heavenly Abyss, Neodali felt a chill run down his spine. As a bull that mainly slept, he actually did not know much about Heavenly Abyss. Not to mention understanding. Even the name of Heavenly Abyss, Neodali, had not heard much. It was the first time in history that he had truly set foot in Heavenly Abyss. Originally, he knew that Heavenly Abyss was unusual, but now that he had truly entered the range of Heavenly Abyss, this green bull realized that this place was different. Qin Shujian said, "Don't worry, with me here, you won't die. Emperor of Heaven, you must be joking. How could this old bull be afraid?" Neodali's heart relaxed slightly, but on the surface, he shook his head and said, while talking, Neodali had already arrived at the entrance of Heavenly Abyss. It was a bottomless abyss, as if it had cut off the entire western region. Rather than an abyss, it was more like a gap between heaven and earth. Standing at the entrance of Heavenly Abyss, Neodali could clearly feel the murderous aura that filled the air. That terrifying murderous aura. It was not something that the 10,000 tribes battlefield could compare to. Go down. Qin Shujian's voice sounded in his ears, making Neodali's mind calm down. Then, he saw his 4 hooves stepping on the air, already descending towards Heavenly Abyss. The moment he entered Heavenly Abyss, the already powerful murderous aura became even more powerful at this moment. Neodali suppressed the fear in his heart and rushed down towards Heavenly Abyss. In the depths of Heavenly Abyss, there was endless black fog, and it was impossible to see clearly. At the same time, his divine sense was also restricted here. When he went deep into the black fog, Neodali could no longer see the surrounding scene clearly, and there was no way to tell when he would reach the bottom. Qin Shujian, who was sitting on the bull's back, had a solemn look on his face. He took out the Emperor of Heaven's fan and waved it gently. Astral winds suddenly burst out, dispersing the black fog that was close to them. At this moment, there was a terrifying force rising from the bottom of Heavenly Abyss. The surrounding space also instantly condensed. At that moment, Neodali's body was imprisoned in the void, and he could no longer move. Only the bull's eyes moved, and one could see the horror in them. "It's here." Qin Shujian's heart skipped a beat, but his face became calmer.
Pango.
The two simple words made the surrounding condensed space flow again, and also made the force rising from heavenly abyss feel a huge threat. "I'm not here to fight with you today, but to make a deal with you, so I hope you won't spoil the harmony between us." Qin Shujian laughed loudly. His voice didn't echo in the desolate heavenly abyss. It was as if he wasn't in heavenly abyss now, but a vast and desolate world. It seemed that Qin Shujian's words had an effect, and there was no more movement in heavenly abyss. Dali thought of what he had told him, forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart, and continued to head down. Time passed. After an unknown amount of time, the man and the bull finally saw the bottom of heavenly abyss. They didn't have time to look at the surrounding environment, and their eyes were completely attracted by the scene in front of them. There were two bright moons in front of them. But unlike the moon in the sky, these two bright moons were scarlet in color, full of a tyrannical and ominous aura. However, in Qin Shujian's eyes, he knew that the bright moons in front of him weren't real moons, but the eyes of living creatures. Occasionally, the black fog would recede, and one could see the dark green scales. The so-called incarnation of the lunar rule was a terrifying beast that seemed to be infinitely large, occupying the entire underground of heavenly abyss. He didn't expect that just as he entered the depths of heavenly abyss, he would completely appear in front of the lunar rule. "Qin Shujian of the human race, how should I address you?" Looking at the beast in front of him, Qin Shujian cupped his hands and said with a calm expression. His words fell. The beast didn't speak, just stared at him coldly with a tyrannical gaze. A moment later, heavenly abyss shook, and a name was spat out.
End.
A simple word caused heavenly abyss to riot. A terrifying power erupted from heavenly abyss, shaking the world and buzzing. The creatures in the western state near heavenly abyss all turned their heads to look at heavenly abyss at this moment. Their faces were filled with horror. Heavenly abyss is rioting again. Damn it! Why has heavenly abyss been rioting frequently in recent years? Could it be that the terrifying existence below is going to come out of heavenly abyss? Report to the heavenly court immediately. No one knew the reason for heavenly abyss's riot. There were only a handful of powerhouses who could understand the secrets of heavenly abyss. More people knew that there was a terrifying existence in heavenly abyss, but they didn't know much about it. They didn't know either. Heavenly abyss was actually a seal. They only thought that it was the place where the terrifying existence was sleeping. Now that heavenly abyss was rioting, it might be a sign that the terrifying existence was about to come out. If it was in the past, the races in the western state would panic. But now that the heavenly court was established and there was a problem, naturally someone would send a message to the heavenly court for them to deal with it. Deep in heavenly abyss, Qin Shujian's expression was the same as usual as he said with a faint smile, "I want to get a trace of your lunar rule. As a deal, I will release you from heavenly abyss within 1,000 years. How about it?" Release?
Kiki.
Ian let out a strange laugh, his eyes flashing with a dangerous light. "You should be the existence that awakened last time. To be honest, I have never seen an existence above the rule. You said that if I devour you, I can walk out of heavenly abyss by myself. I think it's possible. After all, devouring an existence above the rule is a great supplement. I think you're a little weak. Since you're already here, why don't you stay?" After saying that, Ian opened his bloody mouth, and a terrifying wind rose in heavenly abyss, wanting to swallow Qin Shujian and Dali. Qin Shujian held the stone ball given by the blade master and squeezed it slightly.
Boom.
A terrifying saber chi burst out all of a sudden. In front of that saber chi, it was as if nothing in the world could resist it. Heavenly abyss, which had existed for countless years, also seemed to be about to shatter. In an instant, Ian felt a great terror descending, and the ominous brutality in his scarlet eyes faded a lot, followed by panic. "You also have a power above the rule." He couldn't believe it. The aura emanating from Qin Shu Jian wasn't strong. At most, he was in the true immortal realm. And, to a large extent, he hadn't even reached the third level of the true immortal realm. This was also why Yin dared to make a move and wanted to devour Qin Shu Jian. However, he never thought that Qin Shu Jian could still exert a power above the rule at this moment. That extremely terrifying saber chi made Yin feel as insignificant as an ant. Ever since he was born, there was no other expert who could give him such a feeling. Even Qin Song from 1,000,000 years ago could only be said to be evenly matched in a great battle between the two. Compared to the person in front of him, there was no comparison at all. Qin Shu Jian held the stone ball in one hand, and the way he looked at Yin had already become indifferent. His original polite tone had also disappeared. If it weren't for the fact that killing you would cause the great 1,000 worlds to lose order, I would have already killed you for your impudence just now. Do you really think that I have no strength at all after reincarnating? You still know nothing about the power above the rule. Supreme One, please calm down. Yin's voice trembled a little. When he encountered a weak existence, he would directly devour it. However, when he encountered a powerful existence, he also cherished his life very much. It wasn't that he had seen through life and death after existing for countless years. On the contrary, Yin actually valued his own life very much. Qin Shu Jian said indifferently, I won't bully you. Hand over a trace of the lunar rule, and within 1,000 years, I will come and release you. This is the reward for the deal. Of course, you can also refuse, and I will come and take it myself. However, at that point, you will bear all the consequences. I will give you 3 breaths of time to consider. From the beginning to the end, Qin Shu Jian's expression was indifferent. Under the contrast of the saber chi, he seemed to have become the true ruler of heaven and earth. Everything in front of him was equivalent to an ant. That gaze made Yin's heart tremble. He didn't dare to hesitate for too long and immediately separated a trace of the lunar rule. If Supreme One has a request, I will naturally do as you say. Very good. Qin Shu Jian directly put away the crystal formed by the lunar rule. Then, he gently knocked the bull's head with his folding fan and secretly sent a voice transmission. Hurry up and leave. Seeing this, only then did Niu Dali recover from his shock and hurriedly flew away. Yin didn't stop him. He just silently watched Qin Shu Jian leave.
As time went by,
that extremely tyrannical saber chi also weakened bit by bit. He felt the weakening of the saber chi. Yin's eyes were filled with doubt. Then, when he saw that the man and the bulls seemed to be fleeing, he quickly understood. Suddenly, his scarlet eyes were filled with violence. How dare you lie to me? In an instant, Heavenly Abyss riot. P.S. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 730. A furious roar came from the depths of Heavenly Abyss. It made Niu Dali tremble in fear as he frantically fled outside. Qin Shu Jian, who was sitting sideways on the back of the cow, still looked calm, but he was actually very nervous. The stone ball that he was holding in his hand was also exhausted at this time. It dissipated in the air like ashes. Fortunately, Yin's intelligence is also limited. Otherwise, it would be really difficult to obtain the lunar law. Qin Shu Jian was sweating in his heart. When he completely left Heavenly Abyss, he let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, that beast's intelligence was not high. Just the saber energy of the Blade Master scared the other party. If they were really going to fight, then Qin Shu Jian was not confident that he could leave. Although he could call out the name of a Dao fruit expert, in fact, the name of a Dao fruit expert was more often than not a deterrent. It was impossible to threaten a half-step Dao fruit expert. In other words, if Yin Gangang really attacked, he would most likely die. Even if he had the law of words, it would be useless. To a certain extent, a half-step Dao fruit expert had already touched the level of the law of words. After leaving Heavenly Abyss, Niu Dali immediately headed towards the Heavenly Court. On the back of the cow, Qin Shu Jian played with the crystal formed by the lunar law with a faint smile on his face. He had obtained the lunar law. Even if it was only a trace, it could allow the god role to condense the deity position of the lunar lord. Moreover, the lunar law could also be officially born in the inner world. The law is missing. It is impossible for Een to replenish the lost power in a short period of time. In other words, I have enough time to find a suitable candidate for the deity position of the lunar lord. As one of the two most important deity positions in the Zhou Tian star, I have to think carefully about the candidate for the lunar lord. Qin Shujian fell into deep thought. Normally speaking, the most suitable person to inherit the deity position of the lunar lord was naturally an expert of the Moon Clan. This was because the Moon Clan was originally a clan that was derived from Yuehua's intelligence. Therefore, the Moon Clan was born with the ability to borrow the power of the moon. But regarding the Moon Clan, Qin Shujian was also somewhat uncertain. The previous Moon Monarch was the reincarnation of the ancient Moon Monarch, who died at the hands of Shao Qingfeng. As for the current Moon Monarch, his strength was really average. Until now, he had barely entered the 10th level of the Celestial Being Realm. 10th level of the Celestial Being Realm. It was impossible for him to take over the position of the Moon Sovereign. This was because it was different from the ordinary Zhou Tian constellation deity position. The deity position of the Moon Lord was extremely powerful. One had to be at least a true immortal to be able to bear the power of the deity position. His mind was filled with thoughts. Qin Shujian shook his head. Let's wait and see. If the current Moon Empress can break through to the true immortal realm, then the deity position of the Moon Lord will be given to her. If she can't break through, then we'll find another candidate. If a true immortal is born in the human race, it would be good to bestow the deity position of the Moon Lord. Unfortunately, although the human race had many experts now, they were all very powerful. But after all, they had been weak for many years. Now that he had risen again, he would not be able to return to the peak of the ancient times in a short period of time. Among the humans, currently, there were no experts who could become immortals. The strongest were probably the few elders from the Imperial Astronomer. In 3 years, they had only broken through to the 8th or 9th level of the Celestial Being Realm. Even so, that was the ceiling of the human race below the true immortal realm. If they wanted to give birth to the 5th true immortal, they would at least need to delay for a few more years. A few years was not long, but it also depended on the situation. If they wanted to establish the deity position of the Moon Lord, a few years would be too long. Once Een replenished the incomplete laws, it would be impossible to establish the deity position of the Moon Lord. At this moment, Nyodali had officially returned to the Heavenly Court. Just as he returned to the Heavenly Court, there was someone pacing back and forth in front of the Heavenly Palace. When he looked carefully, it was the Demon Emperor, who is already the Emperor of Southern Flame. Emperor of Southern Flame is pacing back and forth in the Heavenly Palace. What's the matter? Qin Shujian said with a faint smile as he got down from the bull's back. Hearing this, the Demon Emperor immediately came to his senses. He looked at Qin Shujian and bowed. Not long ago, there were strange movements in Heavenly Abyss. I'm afraid that something from the depths of Heavenly Abyss has come out. This matter is of great importance. I specially came to ask the Emperor of Heaven to make a decision. For the matter of Heavenly Abyss, the Demon Emperor was also in a terrible fix. The demon race existed in the Western Prefecture. If the existence under Heavenly Abyss really came out, it would be a devastating blow to the demon race. Such a terrifying existence. Even if all the races in the Western Prefecture worked together, they would probably not be able to contend against it. Although the Demon Emperor had broken through to the true immortal realm, the stronger he was, the more he understood how terrifying the depths of Heavenly Abyss were. Qin Shujian's expression was calm as he said indifferently, Heavenly Abyss is not a big problem. There's no need to pay too much attention to it. That thing in the depths can't come out. Even if he comes out, he won't be able to cause much trouble. In any case, with the existence of the universal chains, Een couldn't break the seal and rush out unless he could break through to the Dao fruit realm. However, as the manifestation of the lunar law, Yin had no possibility of becoming a Tao fruit. Therefore, it was impossible for him to walk out of heavenly abyss. Seeing Qin Shujian's calm expression, the demon emperor was relieved. I was a little rash. Indeed, he was a little confused by the matter of heavenly abyss. Now that he heard Qin Shujian's words, he finally calmed down. The matter he cared about was resolved. The demon emperor cupped his hands and left. In the outer hall of the heavenly palace, Qin Shujian looked at Niodali and said, "How long will it take for you to break through to the true immortal realm?" "It should be in the next few years." Niodali hesitated. He was actually not too sure when he would break through to the true immortal realm. Ever since he came to the heavenly palace, Niodali was very satisfied with his current life. On the contrary, he was not in the mood to cultivate. Otherwise, with his strength, he would have long been able to affirm the Tao and become an immortal. He would not be lingering around the 10th level of the heaven realm. Qin Shujian said, "Become an immortal as soon as possible. If you don't become an immortal, you're just an ant. Although you'll only be a bigger ant after becoming an immortal, no matter what, you'll have more power to resist. Otherwise, you won't be able to live in peace for long."
To be honest,
Qin Shujian was also a little disappointed with Niodali for failing to live up to his expectations. He clearly had good conditions, but he was still lingering around the 10th level of the heaven realm. It was simply the behavior of a salted fish. If he was really sincere in cultivating, he would definitely be close to breaking through to the true immortal realm. After all, the star power in the heavenly court was the densest. Cultivating here would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Hearing that, Niodali nodded as if he understood. Seeing this, Qin Shujian shook his head and did not say anything else. The master led the way, and the cultivation depended on the person. He had already said so much. If the other party still did not want to move, then there was nothing he could do. Back in the inner hall of the heavenly palace, Qin Shujian immediately entered the inner world. In the inner world, he took out the lunar rule and directly crushed it with his hand. In an instant, the mother stream of precept shook. The lunar rule was like a seed that was born inside. Soon, a new branch was opened. With the opening of the lunar rule, the entire mother stream of precepts, even the entire inner world, was shaking crazily. At that moment, everything was transforming. Heaven and earth were expanding. Boundless mysteries appeared in the sky.
Then
There was a long roar of the dragon vein, cheering in joy. In a mountain range, there was a Jianmu scirich that was tens of thousands of feet tall. At this moment, the branches and leaves of the Jianmu scirich were emerald green, and a vast vitality was emitted from it. A powerful spirituality soared into the sky, and finally, it completely completed the transformation.
build wood.
A deep voice came out of the Jianmu scirich, and then echoed crazily between heaven and earth. Vast spiritual energy surged crazily and gathered toward the Jianmu scirich. Immediately, the aura on his body skyrocketed. Heaven realm. First level of the heaven realm. Second level of the heaven realm. In a short period of time, he had directly soared to the 7th level of the heaven realm, officially stepping into the almighty realm. At this point, Jianmu scirich's skyrocketing aura gradually calmed down. The crazy transformation of the inner world. It also made Qin Shujian's physical body undergo a terrifying transformation. At this moment, his body, which was sitting in the inner hall of the heavenly palace, was emitting an aura as vast as the sea of stars, and instantly suppressed the entire heavenly court. The pillar-like starlight was slightly stagnant, as if it had encountered a terrible shock. The gods in the hall were now awakened one by one. What's going on? Xiao Qingfeng's expression changed drastically. In front of that spreading aura, his blood and qi were boiling and trembling. Ever since he broke through to the true immortal realm, Xiao Qingfeng had never felt like this in front of any expert. Under the shroud of that aura, he found that he had an illusion of being small and weak, as if that unknown existence could wipe him out with a gentle wave of his hand. This feeling made Xiao Qingfeng's heart tremble. The Emperor of Heaven's strength has made another breakthrough. In just an instant, he connected the unknown aura with Qin Shujian. In the heavenly court, the only person who could possibly possess such strength was the Celestial Emperor. As for Qin Shujian's strength, Xiao Qingfeng had always been uncertain. In the first exchange, he thought that although Qin Shujian's strength was strong, it was still a little weaker than his. But after the second exchange, Xiao Qingfeng was a little doubtful of life. Until now, he was also not sure what realm Qin Shujian's strength was at. But now that his aura was leaking out, Xiao Qingfeng realized that his opponent's strength had reached an extremely terrifying realm. Upper 3 levels of true immortal. Taking a deep breath, he finally understood why Qin Shujian had the confidence to make a move against the demons of the Void 10 or 20 years later. It turned out that his opponent's strength was no weaker than an upper 3 levels of true immortal. He had the memories of his previous life. Xiao Qingfeng's perception of aura was almost never wrong. Just based on the aura that Qin Shujian was leaking, he could be sure that his opponent's strength had definitely reached the upper 3 levels of true immortal. In front of Xiao Qingfeng, the sky-breaking halberd and John Doe sat opposite each other. Just based on his aura alone, the Emperor of Heaven's strength has indeed reached the upper 3 levels of true immortal, and it's not like the early level 7 immortal. He's very strong. John Doe nodded slightly and used the word very strong as a final conclusion. That aura. It was not only Xiao Qingfeng who was astonished. Even the 2 ancestral armaments were astonished. He's already in upper 3 levels of true immortal. The Eastern God of War took a deep breath. He was now only a 2nd level immortal. Although his strength was comparable to a 4th or 5th level immortal, in reality, it was harder to challenge someone of a higher level. Because to be able to cultivate to that level, which one of them was not a true genius? And which one of them was not in existence that could challenge someone of a higher level? At a lower level, there might be some mediocre people, but to be able to break through to the upper 3 levels of true immortal, none of them would be mediocre. In other words, in front of a real upper 3 levels of true immortal, Xiao Qingfeng was only a 2nd level immortal. As for his strength being comparable to a 4th or 5th level immortal, it was a joke. Even if he was on the path of physical sanctification, it was not much different. After figuring out the key points, Xiao Qingfeng took a deep breath. A 2nd level immortal is ultimately too weak. When attacking the demons of the void, I need to at least break through to the 5th level immortal. Otherwise, there's no chance of winning against the Demon Emperor. The only one that could be remembered by him was the Demon Emperor of the Void Evil Demon Clan. Other than the Demon Emperor, even the top Demon Emperor experts were not in Xiao Qingfeng's eyes. An upper 3 levels of true immortal, it seems like he really got the lunar law. The Blade Master turned his head and looked in the direction of the Heavenly Palace with a solemn expression. He was also the reincarnation of an expert from the first few eras. However, Qin Shujian had already recovered to the level of an upper 3 levels of true immortal, but he was still stuck at the level of a 1st level immortal. Between the two, unknowingly, the distance between them had increased greatly. In the Blade Master's opinion, this gap could be completely closed in a dozen years or so. However, Qin Shujian would not remain stagnant. If he improved, so would the other.
Soon.
The Blade Master calmed his mind and absorbed the power of the stars to cultivate. He had already officially stabilized his 1st level immortal realm. If each small realm of true immortal was divided into the middle, late, and late stages, then the Blade Master was now equivalent to a 1st level immortal in the middle stage and was moving towards the late stage. When he entered the late stage, he would have the chance to break through to the 2nd level immortal. Only less than a month had passed since he broke through to the true immortal realm. To be able to reach the 1st level immortal middle stage from the early stage of true immortal realm, this kind of progress, it was already shocking. In the Blade Master's eyes, this kind of progress could not be more normal. Because he was a Dao fruit expert, breaking through to the true immortal realm was only a stage of recovery. he had to really slow down his progress. At least after breaking through to the third level of true immortal realm, inner heaven and earth. When Jianmu truly gained sentience, heaven and earth had completely transformed. From its original size, heaven and earth had become as vast as the eastern continent. The mother stream of laws was hidden and no longer appeared in heaven and earth. At this moment, there was a mysterious fluctuation of aura. In the sky, a long gray river appeared out of thin air. The beginning of the gray river could not be seen, nor could its end be seen. Qin Shujian took a step forward and entered the gray river. The river water flowed quietly. With every drop of water that rose, a large number of images would appear from it. The river of time has finally been born. Qin Shujian walked through the gray river as if he was walking on flat ground and did not encounter any obstacles. The river of time. Any place had the existence of time. Only with the existence of time could the long river of time be formed. Originally, heaven and earth were only minor worlds without living creatures, and the power of time had not been perfected. Now, the minor world had officially become a medium world. After the birth of the first living creature in heaven and earth, the river of time was naturally born. It's said that the river of time has no end, but that's not true. The beginning of the universe is the beginning of the river of time, and the moment the universe is destroyed is the end of the river of time. Perhaps there's still a larger river of time outside the universe, but it's not something I can come into contact with. Qin Shujian thought to himself. He could not come into contact with things outside the universe, because in the universe, the Tao fruit was the end. Unless this era could undergo a transformation, then he would have a chance to peek into the scene outside the universe. But before that, the universe was, in fact, all that Qin Shujian knew. In the river of time, there were countless images in the river, and those images were all things that happened in the past in heaven and earth. But because there were no living creatures in heaven and earth, therefore, the river water in the past was also calm and tranquil, without the slightest ripple. Because heaven and earth did not exist for long, Qin Shujian easily reached the end of the river of time. He saw the end of the gray river. It was a piece of chaos. No one could see what was behind the chaos. Even Qin Shujian, who was the ruler of heaven and earth, could not see it clearly. The gray river seemed to come from the chaos, and then it went from the chaos.
Then,
Qin Shujian simply turned around and walked in the direction he came from. He wanted to see the future of heaven and earth. In the river of time, countless images appeared. There were images of Jianmu reaching the heavens and becoming a supreme powerhouse, and also images of living creatures being born and fighting. There were countless images in each water droplet, but every image was something that happened at the same time. There were infinite possibilities in the future, so there were also countless futures in the river of time. No matter how powerful an existence was, there was no way to determine what the future would be like. What they could do was just peek into a corner of the future.
soon,
Qin Shujian retreated from the river of time. At this time, the gray river in the sky gradually disappeared. The mother stream of laws and the river of time disappeared. The sun that was born in the East Pole Valley was officially completed. It slowly rose from the sky and illuminated the entire world. And in the West Pole, Qin Shujian could also sense that the moon was being born. It wouldn't be long before the great Een would be born as well. From the river of time, I can see that the birth of living creatures in the future will probably cause many disasters. Tens of thousands of races will fight for the ownership of heaven and earth. Perhaps this is something that will repeat every era. As Qin Shujian walked on the ground, he recalled what he had seen in the long river of time. The birth of living creatures. Naturally, there would be disputes. No matter which era it was, at the beginning of the birth of heaven and earth, there would be disasters. That was because the tens of thousands of races would fight for the ownership of heaven and earth. Only after the war, when the tens of thousands of races decided the outcome, and when heaven and earth had a master, could the disputes gradually subside. After dispelling the thoughts in his mind, Qin Shujian began to size up the world in front of him. The flower was still the same flower. The tree was still the same tree. But there was a difference. The flowers, plants, and trees now had a rich vitality, as if they had completely come to life. In the past, although they still existed, they did not have the slightest vitality, as if they were dead objects. When the 5 elements and the yin and yang laws are complete, heaven and earth can be considered to have officially advanced to a medium-class world. It can naturally give birth to living creatures with heaven and earth. When the living creatures die, they will also feed heaven and earth. Whether it is a medium-class world or a greater world, it is the same. All living creatures are born in heaven and earth and return to heaven and earth after they die. They are born with heaven and earth and will eventually die with heaven and earth. If you want to transcend heaven and earth, you have to reach the Tao fruit realm. Qin Shujian thought of many things. When the living creatures of heaven and earth were born, the origin of heaven and earth already existed because all living creatures were born from the origin of heaven and earth. Heaven and earth were destroyed. Naturally, the origin would disappear. Qin Shujian walked in the inner world and observed the changes in heaven and earth while comprehending the principles within. Whether it is the medium-class world or the greater world, they are actually missing a crucial thing, and that is reincarnation. Only when reincarnation is born can heaven and earth be considered to be truly complete and advance to another level. However, no era has ever been able to create reincarnation. Even the experts in the universe do not know that reincarnation exists in heaven and earth, because the cycle of reincarnation is related to true strength. In the third era, when the third era fell, Qin Shujian had once split his spirit and used the opportunity of the universe's collapse to escape into the real world. From there, he used a strand of his spirit to be reborn, so he had a certain understanding of the power of reality. However, although he knew about reincarnation, he did not have the ability to create reincarnation. Unless he had the opportunity to absorb a strand of real power in the future, his inner world would have a chance to transform again. Right now, it has just been promoted to a medium-class world. There is still the path of the greater world to walk. When I truly break through to the greater world, I will consider further upgrading. Qin Shujian shook his head and dispelled the distracting thoughts in his heart. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face. Promoted to a medium-class world. The first living creature was born. It was equivalent to saying that the medium-class world was completely stable. His strength naturally broke through to the level of a 7th-level immortal. Moreover, because he walked the path of evolving heaven and earth, although Qin Shujian was a 7th-level immortal, he was confident that he could suppress an 8th-level immortal who walked the path of physical sanctification. As for a 9th-level immortal, he might not be able to deal with him. However, in terms of strength, an 8th-level immortal who had physical sanctification was actually not inferior to a 9th-level immortal in this great world. In this way, Qin Shujian's current strength had also reached the level of a 9th-level immortal in this era. The Void Evil Demon Clan has 4 demon emperors. Although the 4 demon emperors can't all be 9th-level immortals, there must be 1 or 2 of them. Otherwise, in the face of the Heavenly Court's attack in ancient times, the Void Evil Demon Clan would not have been able to resist. It's easy for me to deal with a 9th-level immortal now, but to deal with 4 demon emperors alone, that's not enough. He secretly estimated the strength of each other. Qin Shujian felt that although he had advanced now, he could not open the barrier of heaven and earth for the time being and lead the Heavenly Court to directly charge out and kill. In this way, things would return to the original point. After waiting for 10 or 20 years, he would let his strength improve further on the original foundation and also let the strength of the gods of the Heavenly Court improve further. At that time, he would be able to open the barrier of heaven and earth and officially declare war on the Void Evil Demon Clan. At this moment, Qin Shujian had already walked into a mountain range. There was a heavenly pillar rising as if it was supporting the heavens and the earth. However, if one looked carefully, one would be able to see that there were patterns on the heavenly pillar, and there was a rich vitality emitting from it. You've finally gained sentience. Qin Shu Jian put his hands behind his back and looked at Jianmu in front of him with a gratified expression. If the original Jianmu could not bear the name of Jianmu, then now he was a little qualified. Jianmu reached the heavens. The sky was 99,000 feet tall. The real Jianmu was 100,000 feet tall, enough to reach the heavens and the earth. The current Jianmu naturally could not reach 100,000 feet tall, but it was about 100,000 feet tall, and could be considered to have the aura that Jianmu should have. Seeing Qin Shu Jian's arrival, a human face appeared on Jianmu, and if one looked carefully, it was somewhat similar to Qin Shu Jian. Jianmu greets the Supreme One. As he spoke, the branches and leaves shook, and the entire mountain range was filled with a joyful atmosphere. Regarding Qin Shu Jian's existence, Jianmu was also clear about this. The other party was the ruler of heaven and earth, and also the existence that gave him his name. Ever since he was born with sentience, the traces that Qin Shu Jian left behind in heaven and earth were deeply engraved in his mind. Therefore, the human face that Jianmu now transformed instinctively moved closer to Qin Shu Jian. Qin Shu Jian said, "As the first living creature in heaven and earth, you will shoulder the responsibility of maintaining the order of heaven and earth in the future. I should have taught you cultivation methods and martial arts, but thinking about it carefully, it is not necessary. Because heaven and earth have just been born, and all the rules and Taoist rhymes are present in it. You can find the most suitable path for yourself by observing heaven and earth. If I teach you methods, it will be a waste of your time." The birth of heaven and earth. The greatest opportunity was to exist within the heaven and earth. No supreme divine ability or spell was imparted by a predecessor. Instead, one had to rely on one's own comprehension, because only the magic art that was comprehended by oneself was the most suitable method for oneself. On the other hand, if it was taught by predecessors, even if it was a heavenly method, there would be a certain flaw. The reason was, it was because the magic art itself was created by predecessors for themselves, not for future generations. Jianmu said in a deep voice, "Your Honor's teachings, Jianmu will remember Jianmu's words. Although I can't teach you the magic art, there are some things that I can tell you." Qin Shu Jian pondered for a moment and said, "From the moment the living beings of the heavens and the earth are born, true essence will be born within their bodies. This realm is called the true martial realm. The true essence tempers the body and nurtures the divine sense until the divine sense gives birth to a spirit god. Spirit god cultivates the yin spirit. When the yin spirit turns into the yang spirit, it can leave the body and walk between heaven and earth. It can be called divine martial realm. When the yang spirit grows to the extreme, the essence, qi, and spirit in the body become one, and it can be called a celestial being. The first 3 levels of celestial being focus on tempering the body. The middle 3 levels also focus on understanding the rules. The last 4 levels focus on gradually mastering the rules. When you truly master the rules, you can ascend to immortality. This realm is called true immortal. When you reach the peak of true immortal, you can transcend heaven and earth. This realm is called Tao fruit. What Qin Shu Jian said. It was not only for Jianmu to hear, but also for the entire heaven and earth to hear. His voice was not loud, but it caused the heaven and earth to shake. The already perfect heaven and earth seemed to have become even more perfect at this moment. Any heaven and earth had a fixed cultivation system. However, the cultivation system did not exist from the beginning. Instead, it was discovered by predecessors bit by bit and finally evolved into a complete system. This process, it could take decades or hundreds of years, or it could take tens of thousands or even millions of years. The perfection of the system was also a necessary process for the evolution of heaven and earth. Now, Qin Shu Jian directly applied the system of the upper-class world to his inner world. As a result, in the process of the evolution of the inner world system, it directly saved a lot of time. There are 3 paths to becoming a true immortal. The lowest path is to leave one's own imprint on the rules with the soul, so that one can borrow the power of the rules of heaven and earth. The middle path is to use mighty force to intercept the rules from heaven and earth, using the physical body to bear the power of the rules, and gather infinite mighty force in one's body. The upper path is to use the physical body to evolve heaven and earth. When one reaches the peak, one's body is equivalent to a vast and boundless upper-class world. Apart from the other three paths, there are also other paths to break through to the true immortal realm. However, as for the fourth path, you can only rely on yourself to figure it out. After saying that, Qin Shujian shook his head slightly. He was not sure how many paths there were to becoming a true immortal. At the moment, it seemed that the three paths had covered all of them, but there might be a fourth path. Therefore, Qin Shujian did not make full promises. If there was really a living being who found the fourth path, it would be a slap in his face. Jianmu quietly listened to Qin Shujian's words. After the other party finished speaking, he seemed to have understood something. The aura on his body, which was already powerful, increased again at this moment, and he broke through to the 8th level of the heaven-human realm.
He sensed the changes in his body.
Jianmu said respectfully, "I will never forget the kindness of your honor. In the future, I will definitely maintain the order of heaven and earth and not fulfill your honor's great trust." "That's good." Qin Shujian nodded. Then, without seeing him do anything, he disappeared on the spot. However, from the beginning to the end, Jianmu did not notice anything. "Your honor's methods are really unpredictable. If I can reach such a realm in the future, I will have no regrets in this life." He could not help but sigh. Among the 6 realms of true martial, spirit martial, divine martial, heaven-human, true immortal, and Tao fruit, there was no doubt that his honor was at least at the Tao fruit level. Otherwise, how could he know the Tao fruit level? In fact, it was not impossible to surpass the Tao fruit level. As the first living being born in heaven and earth, Jianmu had many memories since the birth of heaven and earth appeared in his mind. Therefore, Jianmu understood that Qin Shujian was the creator of heaven and earth. To be able to create a vast world, how could he be a simple existence? It was also because of this reason. He had absolute respect for Qin Shujian. Immediately, the face on the tree trunk disappeared, and Jianmu returned to cultivation. Without the existence of a cultivation technique, he could only observe heaven and earth himself and comprehend a suitable cultivation technique for himself. Before he completely comprehended it, he could only rely on his instincts to breathe in the wandering spiritual energy between heaven and earth. On the other side, after leaving the mountain range, Qin Shujian came to an unfamiliar place. Then, his divine consciousness merged with heaven and earth and completely took in the entire inner world. Until this moment, Qin Shujian truly understood how big the changes in his inner world were. First of all, the expansion of heaven and earth was comparable to the Eastern continent. Now that the great wide world was constantly expanding, the Eastern continent was already half the size of the other continents. In other words, at this moment, although the inner world was not as vast as the great wide world, it was about 1/7 the size. After the yin-yang 5 elements laws were perfected, all living beings were already in the process of being born. Qin Shujian saw brilliant flowers swaying in the wind and slowly breathing in and out spiritual energy. He also saw a faint fluctuation in the river, as if something was being born in it. There were also mountain ranges that rose and fell, as if a person was breathing. Every rise and fall was accompanied by a vast surge of spiritual energy. All of it. Everything was changing. Everything that was originally no different from dead objects was given life the moment the laws were perfected. There was life. There was a possibility of giving birth to spirituality. If spirituality could be born, there was a chance to transform into spiritual wisdom and then become a real living being. His divine consciousness withdrew from heaven and earth. Qin Shujian smiled and said, "I can already see the future. At that time, the living beings of heaven and earth will be born one after another, and it will completely enter the state of blooming flowers. The more living beings there are in heaven and earth, the more laws can be established. When heaven and earth are complete, my strength will naturally increase. After advancing to a medium-class world, Qin Shu Jian no longer had to rely on his own methods to improve his inner world step by step. As long as there were living beings, heaven and earth could continue to advance. In other words, he only needed time now. Even if he was lying down and sleeping, his strength would steadily increase until he could no longer advance. This was the terrifying part of walking the path of evolving heaven and earth. As long as he took the crucial step, the future path would be smooth.
This was also why
Qin Shu Jian had the confidence to give the path of evolving heaven and earth a high valuation among the 3 paths of perfected immortals. Because, in comparison, the other 2 paths were far inferior to the path of evolving heaven and earth. Moreover, as long as there were more living beings in heaven and earth, Qin Shu Jian, as the ruler of heaven and earth, could directly extract the power of living beings to fight against enemies. In short, all he needed now was time. As long as he was given enough time, Qin Shu Jian was confident that he could surpass the peak of the Third Era. P.S. Monthly votes. Chapter 731. He retreated from his inner world. Qin Shu Jian restrained the aura that was leaking from his body. Emperor of Heaven, have you broken through? Godslayer asked in confusion in his sea of consciousness. Although he existed in Qin Shu Jian's sea of consciousness, if the other party did not bring him in, he would not be able to know about the existence of the inner world. He would not be able to understand the changes that had occurred in the inner world. Therefore, Godslayer only knew that Qin Shu Jian's aura had skyrocketed, but he was not sure about the rest. I've broken through. Qin Shu Jian nodded and picked up the god roll on the table. His every move emitted an even stronger aura. As the inner world advanced to a medium-class world, his life level did not change much, but his strength had undergone a huge transformation. Indirectly, the aura of the ruler of heaven and earth on his body also became stronger. He picked up the god roll. The deity position of the Moon Lord had already condensed on it. However, because no one inherited the deity position of the Moon Lord, the empty deity position's power was slowly dissipating. There was only one explanation for such a change, and that was that the Een in Heavenly Abyss was recovering its power. Only the Een was recovering its power. As a result, the gap in the lunar law was disappearing, which made the deity position of the Moon Lord on the god roll unstable. The joy on Qin Shu Jian's face faded a little. The deity position of the Moon Lord must be found as soon as possible. However, this position is not something that any true immortal can sit on. The most suitable one right now is still the powerhouse of the Moon Clan. This was because the deity position of the Sun Lord was held by the Vermilion Bird Emperor. Although the Vermilion Bird clan was not a clan born from the essence of the sun, they were also of the Khanate fire element and could control the Khanate divine fire. To a certain extent, they were very compatible with the deity position of the Sun Lord. It was the same. Therefore, with the Vermilion Bird Emperor holding the deity position of the Sun Lord, he could unleash the power of the deity position to a large extent. It was also because of this that the holder of the deity position of the Moon Lord could not be too weak. Moreover, he had to be compatible with the deity position itself. Otherwise, if the Grand Sun primordial flame was too strong and the lunar essence was too weak, the balance would be lost, which was not a good thing. Yin and Yang must be balanced. In addition to the original 365 stars, only then will the formation be truly perfect. However, the power of the stars that can illuminate the Great Thousand Realms can definitely be increased several times over the original foundation. If it can really increase by several times, the myriad races in the great wide world will welcome an explosive growth, and the strength of the heavenly court will also increase crazily. Qin Shu Jian's eyes flickered as he looked at the investiture of the gods. The era of great battles. Although it was accompanied by a great calamity, it was also a great opportunity. The cultivators of this era all had the opportunity to climb to a peak that was unimaginable in the past. Therefore, this was a rare opportunity. Throughout the hundreds of millions of years since the evolution of heaven and earth, there had been many times of great battles. However, there was absolutely no era of great battles that could be compared to the current one. Even when heaven and earth had just been born, when the spiritual chi of heaven and earth had not transformed from innate spiritual chi, it might not be comparable to now. This was because the power of the stars that had been sealed for hundreds of millions of years was being drawn down this time. The sealed power could be said to be vast and terrifying. This was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for the beings of the Great Thousand Worlds, and also an opportunity for Qin Shi Jian and the other reincarnated people. He put down the investiture of the gods. Qin Shi Jian left the heavenly palace and came to the south continent, the Moon Clan's secret realm. In the Moon God Palace, the current Moon Emperor sat on the throne, silently absorbing the power formed by the moonlight to improve his strength. Ever since the death of the previous Moon Emperor, there was also some chaos in the Moon Clan. Fortunately, the chaos was quickly pacified. In the end, the current Moon Emperor was elected by the powerhouses of the Moon Clan. When the current Moon Emperor had just succeeded the throne, although his strength was not the strongest in the Moon Clan, his talent was unparalleled. The ancient Moon Emperor, Shi Ling, had the idea of using him as a backup carrier. Once the original carrier died, a new carrier would be exchanged. Unfortunately, the battle in the battlefield of laws had destroyed all of Shi Ling's hopes, causing her to completely fall there, and there was no possibility of her changing carriers. The current Moon Emperor did not disappoint the powerhouses of the Moon Clan. In 3 years, he had broken through from the original 8th level of the Heaven-Human Realm to the current 10th level of the Heaven-Human Realm, becoming a top powerhouse of the Moon Clan. The hope of becoming an immortal was also much greater than others. All of a sudden, in the Moon God Palace, where only the Moon Emperor existed, a person appeared out of thin air. The Moon Emperor felt something and directly opened his tightly closed eyes, just in time to see a green robe. Suddenly, his calm face was replaced by a shocked expression. Immediately after, the Moon Emperor stood up from his seat, walked in front of the green robe, and bowed down. Greetings, Emperor of Heaven. You may rise. Thank you, Emperor of Heaven. The Moon Emperor straightened up, then dared to look directly at Qin Shi Jian. Emperor of Heaven, you suddenly came to visit my Moon Clan. What orders do you have? As she spoke, her heart was beating a little fast. There had always been a grudge between the Moon Clan and the Human Clan. The previous Moon Emperor had died on the battlefield because he had stopped a human powerhouse from becoming an immortal. When the Heavenly Court sealed the gods, the Moon Clan, as a large clan, did not obtain any deity position. From this, it could be seen that the Emperor of Heaven was still dissatisfied with the Moon Clan. At this time, Qin Shi Jian suddenly came. It was inevitable that the Moon Emperor would think too much. Although now that the myriad clans were unified, the chances of the other party destroying the Moon Clan were not high. However, as long as he used some casual methods, it would be enough to make the Moon Clan suffer. Moreover, if Qin Shi Jian were to make a move now and kill him here, the Moon Emperor felt that no one would notice. Just as she was feeling apprehensive, Qin Shi Jian slowly said, "How long will it take for the Moon Emperor to break through to the true immortal realm?" Break through to the true immortal realm? The Moon Emperor was stunned for a moment, but he quickly came back to his senses. Give Ben Huang another 2 or 3 years, and he should be able to become an immortal. She did not hide anything about this matter. It was also because there was no need to hide it. Regardless of whether he became an immortal or not, the Moon Emperor understood that he would not be able to make any fundamental changes in front of the Emperor of Heaven. Qin Shi Jian placed his hands behind his back and said with an indifferent expression, 2 or 3 years is too long. Ben Huang will give you half a year. If you can break through to the true immortal realm, then I will give you the deity position of the Moon Lord. Although this deity position belongs to the Zhou Tian star, in terms of true status, it is not inferior to the 4 war gods. Moon Lord. The Moon Emperor's pupils constricted. She did not expect Qin Shujian to come here for this. The deity position of the Moon Lord was not inferior to the 4 war gods. The Moon Emperor's face was filled with shock, but his heart was filled with doubt. She found it hard to believe that Qin Shujian would give her such a benefit. If the deity position of the Moon Lord was really so important, he could have given it to the human race. There was no need for him to personally come to the Moon Clan. She had doubts in her heart. The Moon Emperor was also unhappy. Emperor of Heaven, why do you want to give the deity position of the Moon Lord to the Moon Clan? After all, my clan and the human race. Halfway through her sentence, she stopped. Although she did not say everything, the meaning was already very obvious. Qin Shujian said, the grudge between the human race and the Moon Clan cannot be easily resolved. However, now that the Heavenly Court has been established and controls all races, some grudges can only be temporarily put aside. The deity position of the Moon Lord is not something that anyone can take on. The Moon Clan is a living creature that was born from the moonlight. They are naturally compatible with the deity position of the Moon Lord. That is why I am giving you a chance. If you are not willing to take over, I will find someone else. The Moon Emperor immediately felt relieved and replied, Ben Huang is naturally willing to take over the deity position of the Moon Lord. You can't take over just because you want to. If you can break through to the true immortal realm in half a year, you will be qualified to become the Moon Lord. If you can't, it means that you don't have the opportunity. Take care of yourself. Whether or not you can seize this opportunity depends on you. If you can break through to the true immortal realm in half a year, you can go to the Heavenly Court. Qin Shujian's expression was indifferent. After speaking, he directly left the Moon God Palace. The entire Moon Clan's secret realm was equivalent to being unguarded to him. Qin Shujian could enter and leave freely. The Moon Emperor stood there without moving. She was thinking about what Qin Shujian had said just now. If you can break through to the true immortal realm in half a year, you can take over the deity position of the Moon Lord. This is the greatest opportunity for the Moon Clan. If Ben Huang can become the Moon Lord, the Moon Clan will definitely rise. The Moon Emperor's gaze was firm. She had already made up her mind. In half a year, no matter what method she used, she had to break through to the true immortal realm. The deity position of the Moon Lord was tailor-made for the Moon Clan. If she missed this opportunity, it would not be so easy for the Moon Clan to make a comeback. The glory of the ancient Moon Clan may be reborn in Ben Huang's hands. The Moon Emperor took a deep breath, a gentle smile on her beautiful face. Then she walked out of the Moon God Palace. Looking at the bright moon in the sky, she had already taken a step into the air. The bright moon was transformed by the ancient Moon Emperor when he died. It was also the Moon Clan's greatest treasure. But no one knew. In fact, the bright moon in the sky of the Moon Clan's secret realm was not simply transformed by the ancient Moon Emperor. There were still other secrets inside, secrets that only the Moon Emperors of each generation had the right to know. Entering the bright moon was like passing through a layer of thin film. There was a palace in the bright moon. If one looked carefully, they would find that there was not much difference between it and the Moon God Palace below. The Moon Emperor walked into the palace. In the cold Moon Palace, there were 3 coffins made of cold jade, enjoying the nourishment of the moonlight. The current Moon Emperor greets the seniors. The Moon Emperor looked at the 3 cold jade coffins and gently opened her red lips. Her gentle voice had already sounded in the Moon Palace. After speaking, the 3 cold jade coffins shook slightly. Then, a decaying voice sounded. Moon Emperor, what brings you here? 3 years ago, the Heavenly Court was established. A human expert became the Emperor of Heaven. The emperors of all races were conferred the god position. Our Moon Clan was weak, so none of the god positions belonged to us. Now that the Heavenly Court has established the position of the Moon Lord, our Moon Clan is the most suitable candidate for this position. But to inherit the god position, our clan needs to have a true immortal in half a year. This is a rare opportunity for our Moon Clan. If we miss it, our clan may completely decline in the years to come. The Moon Empress opened her mouth and told him everything that had happened recently. After speaking, the Moon Palace calmed down, as if the experts in the 3 cold jade coffins were shocked by the news. After a long while, a voice came from one of the cold jade coffins. After the ancient times were destroyed, the human race established the heavenly court again. This race really has terrifying potential. I've never heard of the emperors conferring the god position. But judging from the current situation, it is indeed a matter of great benefit to the Moon Clan to be conferred the god position. Another cold jade coffin said, although they didn't know how important the god position of the Moon Lord was. But from the Moon Emperor's words, they could understand that the god position was very important to the current Moon Clan. It was even a matter of whether the Moon Clan could rise or not. The Moon Emperor bowed at this time. Ben Huang is not confident to break through to the true immortal realm in half a year, so I came this time to hope that seniors can help Ben Huang. Hearing that, the cold jade coffins fell into silence. After a long time, a voice sounded. We have been sealed for hundreds of thousands of years to contribute to the Moon Clan. Now that the Moon Emperor has asked, we naturally won't refuse. After speaking, the cold jade coffin suddenly opened. Boom! Qin Shujian, who had returned to the heavenly court, hadn't even sat down when he saw the thunder tribulation appear, covering the 4 continents. Then the thunder tribulation struck down, and its target was the Moon Clan. The Moon Clan really has a backup plan. The thunder tribulation. It seems that an ancient true immortal has broken out of the seal. It's just that an ancient true immortal has broken out of the seal at this time. Could it be that there's a way to help the Moon Emperor become an immortal? Qin Shujian looked at the thunder tribulation in the sky with a strange expression. If it wasn't for the appearance of the thunder tribulation, he would have almost forgotten that the Moon Clan might have an ancient true immortal. Because from the beginning, the Moon Clan had never had an ancient true immortal break out of the seal. This was unusual in itself. Even if it was a small clan, there might be 1 or 2 ancient true immortals. As a large clan, it was impossible for the Moon Clan to not have any foundation. But as the human race became stronger and stronger, and the ancient Moon Emperor fell, Qin Shujian also forgot whether the Moon Clan had an ancient true immortal. For him, those ancient true immortals in the seal were no longer a threat. Not to mention that after they were released, they weren't at their peak. Even if they were at their peak, they were existences that could be destroyed with a wave of his hand. It was just that the scene before him. Only then did Qin Shujian remember the thing that he had always neglected. Originally, I only planned to give you a chance. Now, it seems that the position of the Moon Lord should belong to the Moon Clan. Qin Shujian's expression was indifferent. If it weren't for the fact that the Moon Clan was indeed a candidate for the Moon Lord, he wouldn't have given this opportunity to them. If he was still the human emperor, then even if the Moon Clan was a suitable candidate for the Moon Lord, Qin Shujian would only give this opportunity to the human race. However, it was different now. He was the Emperor of Heaven. There were some things that he had to consider from the big picture. I only hope that you won't disappoint me. Qin Shujian shook his head and then entered the Mother Stream. Although after breaking through to the medium-class world, he didn't need to cultivate to increase his strength. However, Qin Shujian didn't think that he was that lazy. He could increase his strength faster. He couldn't waste this opportunity. On one hand, he took the initiative to comprehend the laws, and on the other hand, he could increase his inner world naturally. If he did both, Qin Shujian was sure that his strength would increase even faster. If I could really get rid of the Void Demon immediately, who would be willing to wait a few more years? He shook his head. Qin Shujian had completely disappeared from the inner hall of the Heavenly Palace. Qian Yuan Realm. In front of the Human Emperor's palace, there were 5 stone tablets standing tall. On each stone tablet, there was a supreme technique left behind. Ever since Qin Shujian became the Emperor of Heaven, more cultivators came to comprehend the stone tablets he left behind. Although there were many other stone tablets in other parts of the Eastern continent. However, only the stone tablet in front of the Human Emperor's palace was the most complete stone tablet. Now, almost everyone in the Qianyuan realm would comprehend the stone tablets here in order to comprehend the mysteries within. After all, this was the technique left behind by the Emperor of Heaven. If one could completely cultivate it, even if they couldn't become the second Emperor of Heaven, they would definitely become one of the strongest in the world. And in front of the stone tablet where the human emperor set up the array formation, Feng Xinglan sat cross-legged, his mind completely immersed in it. His current cultivation had already broken through to the 5th level of the sky human realm. Under the nourishment of the star power for 3 years, his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. However, compared to the other elders of the Qianyuan realm, Feng Xinglan's realm was a little low. The main reason was that his goal wasn't to improve his cultivation, but to improve his array formation skills. After a few years of painstakingly comprehending the array formation set up by the human emperor, Feng Xinglan had gained a lot in the second realm of array formation grandmaster. Not only did it completely stabilize him in the second realm, but it also made a big step forward on his original foundation. Until now, although Feng Xinglan hadn't broken through to the third realm, he was confident that he was the strongest array formation master in the 4 major continents after the Emperor of Heaven. Even if he was an elder of the Imperial Astronomer, he was definitely no match for him in terms of array formation skills. An unknown amount of time had passed. Feng Xinglan retreated from the stone tablet, then took a look at the surrounding scene, got up, and left. He needed time to properly digest what he had just learned. It's extraordinarily difficult to break through to the third realm, but according to my current comprehension progress, I might be able to break through to the third realm in a few years at most. Feng Xinglan thought of some things and sighed slightly in his heart. A few years was easy to say. However, looking at the current situation of the human race's improvement, a few years was enough for him to raise his realm to the level of a mighty figure. As for the third realm of array formation skills, it was only equivalent to a mighty figure. If I don't comprehend array formations, but focus on breaking through myself, and wait until I become an immortal in the future before coming back to comprehend it, would it be better? Feng Xinglan couldn't help but have some thoughts in his heart. However, he quickly dispelled this thought. To him, array formation skills were his lifelong pursuit. If he gave up, he wouldn't be able to get past himself. He interrupted the turmoil in his heart. Feng Xinglan had already returned to his residence, abandoned the people around him, and entered seclusion alone. After becoming the deputy sacred lord, he rarely cared about the affairs of the Qianyuan sacred ground. The main reason was that the human race was peaceful now, and nothing major had happened. Trivial matters could be handled by the other elders, and there was no need for the deputy sacred lord to personally appear. Therefore, Feng Xinglan had enough time to comprehend array formation skills. Is there any news about the bronze token now? Su Yuanming asked in a deep voice in the main branch of the Yuan sect. There's no news. We've also issued a mission to the mutants in the eastern continent. There are only 2 possibilities now. Either the bronze token is not in the eastern continent, or the bronze token has been hidden by someone. Zheng Feng shook his head and said calmly, it was not easy to find the bronze token. The Qianyuan sacred ground was looking for it, the Yuan sect was also looking for it, and the people of all races were looking for it. However, so far, there was no news at all. In his opinion, perhaps the bronze token had already been obtained by someone, but that person did not submit the token and chose to hide it. As for the reason for hiding it, it was nothing more than coveting the secret hidden in the token. Su Yuanming said, if someone is really hiding the token and we have no way to find it, then the mission of the Heavenly Court will probably not be completed. According to the news, the bronze token has something to do with the demon seal. I'm afraid that might not be the case. It doesn't matter to us what the secret is. It's what we should think about, Zheng Feng said lightly. It was a secret. It was not up to them to think about it. Not long after the Yuan sect was established, they had been secretly looking for the whereabouts of the bronze token. Therefore, Zheng Feng and the others knew very well that there was no demon seal behind the bronze token at all. Let's wait and see. Su Yuanming sighed and said, since the Emperor of Heaven wants this token, It must be an extremely important thing. If it falls into the hands of others, it will be troublesome. The news came from the heavenly court. It had been 2 or 3 months. All the races were searching with all their strength, trying to find the whereabouts of the bronze token. The rewards given by the heavenly court and the rewards announced by the myriad races made others unable to stop themselves. Even if there was no news for a few months, it could not dampen their enthusiasm. A few months was nothing. If they could find the bronze token, they could save dozens or hundreds of years of hard work in the future. Just as everyone was looking for the bronze token, in a place where there were few people, Zhonghua and Zhuang Yan both had complicated expressions as they looked at the rusty token in front of them. If there were others here, they would immediately realize that the token in front of them was the bronze token that the myriad races were looking for. This is the bronze token. If we exchange it for the myriad races, we can at least get enough resources to cultivate to the 10th level of the heaven-human realm. Zhuang Yan swallowed his saliva and looked at the bronze token with a burning gaze. 10th level of the heaven-human realm. In the desolate great world, he could be considered a top powerhouse. If I remember correctly, the strongest powerhouses in our desolate great world should be at the 7th or 8th level of the heaven-human realm. Although there may be some errors in the data, I estimate that they are at most at the 10th level of the heaven-human realm. If we get the resources and break through to the 10th level of the heaven-human realm in the game, then in the real world, our strength will also increase by leaps and bounds. At that time, even if we can't break through in the Array Dao with our top realm, it will be enough to revitalize the dojo. The more Zhuang Yan spoke, the more excited he became. In his opinion, the bronze token was enough to change the future of the entire Array faction dojo. Even if they broke through to the Array Dao Grandmaster level, it would definitely not have as great an influence as becoming a top powerhouse in the desolate great world. No matter how strong the Array Dao Grandmaster was. How strong could he be? The first level was only comparable to the Transcendents, the second level was comparable to the Saints, and only the third level was comparable to the Mighty Figures. However, not to mention Third Realm Array Dao Grandmasters, there were only a handful of Second Realm Array Dao Grandmasters in the history of the primordial world who could reach this level. As for the third level, it only existed in legends. Although the dojo master said that the one in the Purple Clouds dojo might be the third level, it was only a possibility. It could be seen. How difficult was it to break through in the Array Dao? On the contrary, if one could achieve something in the realm, it would be more useful than becoming an Array Dao Grandmaster. You're right. If we can give the token to the myriad races, we'll be rich. Zhonghua nodded slightly. Then he shifted his gaze from the token to Zhuang Yan. Rumor has it that behind the bronze token is a place where demons are sealed. If the bronze token is used, the seal will be opened and the demons will be released. This rumor has no basis. No one can be sure if the place behind the token is the place where demons are sealed. But I think that if what's behind the bronze token is not the seal of an evil spirit, but a powerful opportunity, then the strength of this opportunity is definitely beyond our imagination. Zhonghua's tone was neither fast nor slow, but it made Zhuang Yan's breathing quicken. If the bronze token represented an opportunity, then this opportunity would definitely be earth-shattering. The reason was simple. The myriad races were searching for the token, so it must be the Heavenly Court's idea. And the Heavenly Court wanted the token, so the order was given by the Emperor of Heaven. To be able to make an existence at the level of the Heavenly Emperor yearn for such a lucky chance, what kind of powerful existence was it? If they really obtained the opportunity, it would definitely change their fate. Not only would it change the fate of the Array Faction Martial Arts Club, but it might also change the situation of the entire desolate great world. Thinking of this possibility, Zhuang Yan's mind was a little unstable, and he could not calm down for a long time. After a long time, he barely suppressed the shock in his heart and revealed a hesitant look on his face. But the problem is, if the bronze token is really sealed by demons, then we will lose the opportunity to submit the mission. At that time, it will really be like drawing water with a bamboo basket. Hearing this, Zhonghua fell into deep thought. Zhuang Yan's words were not unreasonable. In front of them, there were only two paths they could take. One was to submit the bronze token and complete the mission of the myriad races to obtain the extremely generous reward. The other was to use the bronze token without permission and obtain the powerful opportunity within. However, there was a certain possibility that they would lose everything. After thinking for a long time, Zhonghua said in a deep voice, "Let's take a gamble. Although the resources for the 10th level of the heaven-human realm are abundant, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to break through after the 10th level of the heaven-human realm. If there is an opportunity in the bronze token, the path to becoming a perfected immortal might be smooth. Of course, you and I discovered the bronze token together. If you don't want to take a gamble, then I won't force you. When the time comes to submit the mission, you and I will split the resources equally." Zhonghua's words. This caused Zhuang Yan to hesitate as well. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Since that's the case, let's take a gamble. At most, we'll drop a level. As for the resources for the 10th level of the heaven-human realm, we'll split them equally. At most, it'll be enough for us to cultivate to the 7th or 8th level of the heaven-human realm. When the time came, it would not be impossible for them to earn enough resources by fighting for it. On the contrary, this might be the only opportunity for the bronze token. The opportunity was right in front of him. If he did not take a gamble, Zhuang Yan would not be satisfied. Although it was a good thing to get a reward safely, he was more willing to take a gamble. If he failed, then he failed. If he succeeded, then he would really be the master. After the two of them made the decision, Zhonghua did not hesitate. He grabbed the token and read the information in it carefully. It's in the fallen immortal realm. When the moonlight shines on the fallen immortal realm, you can use the token to summon the unknown cave abode. Zhonghua told him the information in the token. Zhuang Yan said, "The fallen immortal realm. I remember it's the junction of several continents. A few years ago, the human race and the emperors fought there. It's said that there's still remnants of energy left. If we go there, we'll have to be fully prepared. Get everything ready. We'll enter the fallen immortal realm in 2 days," Zhonghua said. "Okay." Soon, the two of them left with the bronze token. 2 days later, the two of them went through the portal and arrived at the city closest to the fallen immortal realm. After they got out of the city, they immediately headed toward the fallen immortal realm. Since a few years ago, when the human race and the emperors of the other races fought here, the remnants of energy had been left in the fallen immortal realm for a long time, making it a dangerous place. However, because of the remnants of the emperor's energy, some people took the risk to enter the fallen immortal realm in order to understand the mystery. However, only a few people did so, because the fallen immortal realm was too dangerous. Any trace of the energy left behind by the sovereigns was enough to kill other cultivators. After a long time, no one dared to enter the fallen immortal realm. When they arrived at the entrance of the fallen immortal realm, Zhonghua and Zhuang Yan looked at each other and then stepped in. The two of them walked very carefully and paid attention to the surroundings. At this moment, the moon had risen from the heavenly abyss. The bright moonlight shone on the earth, but they were still some distance away from the fallen immortal realm. "Let's go deeper. Don't make too much noise," Zhonghua said calmly. He was not sure if there would be any noise when he used the bronze token. If there was a big noise, he would be doing the others a favor. Only by going deeper into the fallen immortal realm and then using the bronze token, the remnants of the Emperor's energy could resist for a while even if there was a big noise. "Okay." Zhuang Yan nodded and then said, "Let's bind the resurrection point here, so that we don't have to run again when we die."
Okay.
Zhonghua did not object. The two of them immediately bound the resurrection point here and then continued to go deeper into the fallen immortal realm. When they were less than 100 meters away, a gentle breeze blew. It was supposed to be a gentle breeze, but now it was like a sharp blade. Before the two of them could react, they turned into white light and disappeared. 10 minutes later, at the resurrection point, the two of them were confused at first, but then their faces darkened. Zhonghua said, The fallen immortal realm is really dangerous. Let's continue, but change the direction this time. Okay. Zhuangyan nodded, and then the two of them went deeper into the fallen immortal realm. The gentle breeze from before blew once again. This time, they were experienced. They immediately ran forward crazily, not giving the breeze a chance to touch them.
Then,
there was a sudden frost on the flat ground. Zhong Hua didn't even think about it. He crushed a few jade talismans, and a powerful force erupted from them, colliding fiercely with the frost. However, the moment those several powerful forces came into contact with the frost, they were instantly annihilated. The whole process. They could not stop it for even half a breath.
at last,
The two of them were swallowed by the frost again. They were resurrected again. Zhong Hua and Zhuang Yan had learned their lesson. They did not deal with it carelessly. Instead, they bound the resurrection point again for every 100 meters. In the face of the attacks from the fallen immortal realm, they resisted if they could. If they could not, they resigned to their fate. After dying 5 or 6 times, the two of them finally went deeper into the fallen immortal realm. Even though it was only 100 kilometers, only they themselves knew how much danger there was in it. Zhuang Yan wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked around. Here is enough. If we go deeper, I'm afraid we will die a few more times. If we go on like this, we will fall to the real martial arts realm before the token is activated. After saying that, Zhuang Yan felt a toothache. He did not see any opportunity. Instead, he paid a price of several levels. If he really didn't have any opportunities, it would take at least a few years to make up for this loss. He looked around at his surroundings. Zhong Hua did not refuse. At this moment, the moon had risen to a very high position. The moonlight gradually moved to the fallen immortal realm.
Suddenly,
He held the bronze token and said, "Use." The void vibrated. All of a sudden, a crack appeared on the ground, and a stone tablet fell out of it. The stone tablet fell. It did not make any noise. Zhong Hua and Zhuang Yan's eyes immediately fell on the stone tablet. Cauldron Cave Mansion. Seeing the words on it, Zhuang Yan smiled. Cauldron Cave Mansion. It is obviously a mansion left by an expert. The probability of there being a demon seal is very low. Now, it seems that we made the right bet. We will know the specific situation when we enter the mansion. Zhong Hua also smiled, but he was not too optimistic. Although from the looks of it, Huading Cavern Mansion did not seem to be a place where evil spirits were sealed, there was no guarantee that there was something wrong with it. He moved his eyes away from the words, Cauldron Cave Mansion, and looked at the groove at the bottom right corner of the stone tablet. The shape and size of the groove fit the bronze token perfectly. Now that things had come to this, Zhong Hua did not hesitate. He took a step forward and embedded the bronze token in his hand into the stone tablet. When the bronze token was placed on the stone tablet, Qin Shujian, who had just come out of the Mother Stream and was cultivating in the Heaven Palace, suddenly opened his eyes. P.S. Monthly votes. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.